Welcome back to 1010's podcast. I'm Michael Beck. We have Adam Nielsen and Handsome Rob here with us today, as always.
We got to get a different name for him.
Nope.
What's wrong with Handsome Rob, though?
Well, it's just fun to mix it up a little bit.
No, well, you said you were going to do different nicknames.
Yeah, but I haven't had a chance to do it yet.
Yeah,
Well,
we never talk.
Are you just waiting? Yeah, that's a good point. Are you just waiting for, like, you just going to slide one in?
Yeah, I'm just going to...
Right when he's getting ready to make a point,
I'm just going to take my knife and I'm going to dig it into his side and he's going to be so mad about it.
It's going to throw off his whole point.
Again, you said this 4 weeks ago.
Well, he's just waiting.
You
He's
still
biding his
remember,
time.
so I got to wait still.
He brought it up today, actually, in the car. He's like, Adam's going to do it. Adam's going to do it one of these.
He's going to say
He's
it.
gonna-
He's losing
gonna
sleep
slam
at
it.
night.
Oh, I know he is.
For sure.
He's super worried
really
about it.
not.
That's why he brought it up earlier.
No, Handsome Rob fits. People seem to really like it.
As he says, smiling very coyly.
I'd like, besides Liz, who has been like, yeah, I like it.
Everybody.
No.
By the way,
Fine
you
one
are self-proclaimed Handsome Rob on a podcast where no one can see you.
That's the perfect way
you
to
might
do
have
it.
a face for radio. They
Yeah,
don't know.
you're basically on a radio show.
That's fine.
Okay, but I'm just saying, you're telling everybody that you are handsome and
sounds-
nobody can
That's
see
not
you.
true.
Sounds awfully...
I did not say I was handsome. You guys did.
I didn't know. That's your nickname that you gave yourself.
No.
That
I
is
think I did,
Liz,
actually.
Liz
Oh, you
and
did?
Adam gave it to me.
Well, I think I suggested it to you, Michael.
Oh. Isn't Jason Statham called Handsome Rob in one of his movies?
Italian Job.
Italian. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
He just, like, sleeps with women at will.
Yeah.
And he drives an Aston Martin.
But he's not, first of all,
He's figured this out.
Robbie is not nearly as jacked as Jason Statham.
Not yet.
And he doesn't have an Aston Martin either.
Not yet.
Again.
Well, does he get the handsome designation before or after he does those
Before.
things?
Because those things don't... Well, I guess the being a jack does, but not the Aston
Jacked,
Martin.
I don't know.
No, I would beg to differ.
Oh, God damn it, you're right.
There was a girl I knew who told me that if she ever met a guy who owns an Aston Martin, she'd sleep with him just to ride in it, regardless of who he was.
If anybody's selling an Aston Martin, you can contact me directly at
filed-
515.
I filed that away as good to know.
But what if you borrow it and tell her you own it?
You know, she doesn't have to. She's
Hertz.
not.
You could rent one from Hertz. Hertz
Trust me,
rents
she is
Aston
not
Martins.
going to check a
The
title.
only problem with that is you have to put $5,000 down as a
Worth
deposit.
it.
Is that what it is? It's just on
You
a
know-
credit card, though.
Yeah.
Guaranteed, like we were talking earlier, everyone has a price. Hers is less than that. I can assure you of
That's
this.
true.
Well, you get the.
What
the
if I get a
deposit back.
Ford Fusion?
What?
No, I'm saying rather than rent the car for $5,000, you could probably just pay her and be done.
Oh, I got you.
No. You don't rent it for $5,000. You put $5,000 down as a deposit, and then you pay whatever it costs to rent, which is like $700.
It's
a
still
day.
not. It's still not cheap. Yeah, because I looked at it when I was in
I
Houston.
think I'd rent a car for $700 a day. I'd rent an Aston. For
Yeah,
that.
but you have to have
Would
like
you?
$6,000 set aside to do it.
but it's
wouldn't
only
you?
on your credit card.
Can I? Which Aston?
You'll get the
are we
money
talking
back.
About?
Oh, mister, I have a really expensive credit card.
God damn it! No,
I'm sorry, my credit limit isn't $28,000.
just got a target on my back now. My identity's gonna get stolen.
Yeah, no joke. He's gonna get.
It's a lot, asshole.
We're gonna have to edit this
The
out.
social security number is.
Now they have my phone number and my social security number. Oh, geez, this show's off the rails. What happened?
We made it 4 minutes.
Let's bring it back. Social media.
Social media. So you can find us as 1010s Podcast everywhere except for Snapchat. Twitter's at the number 1010s Podcast. That's the only one that's different. So find us there, 1010spodcast.com. And we have our Kinja now, which I think only my article's on the Kinja at the moment. But we're going to work on that. Are you going to put that the article that you posted today on Kinja, or are you not going to?
You can do it. I've never been on Kinja. It took
He
me
doesn't
forever
even know
to
what a
figure out
Kinja
shout
is.
Yeah, he doesn't know what Kinja
he's
is.
clearly proven that he is not the guy to do that.
Robbie
stuff.
should never be on Facebook ever. He posted the same article to Facebook six
He
different
goes,
times.
wait, you can do more than just post a picture? I'm confused.
He somehow posted it to Facebook from our website provider,
Let me
and then let me explain, because you explained it earlier wrong.
No, I didn't.
And then somehow he got the post from 1010s, grabbed it with his personal page, and then reshared it to 1010s. So it said Robbie Veerhout has shared the article from your page, and then he did that 6 times.
I was driving down the
little
road really
exaggerated.
confused because my phone kept going off with, why is Robbie sharing stuff to
He was
his
sitting-
own web?
He was sitting
or
here
his
on
own
the computer
Facebook
going, no, stop.
Well, first, every time I saved it on the.
Don't try to defend it.
Every time I saved it on the Shout Engine page, it went to Facebook.
Not Shout Engine.
Yeah, not shout it. Squarespace.
Squarespace. I keep
Squarespace.
doing that.
Squarespace is our website provider.
So I kept doing that, and then when I tried to share it to my timeline, I shared it to 1010's timeline as myself, and then as 1010's, and then I finally got it right. So I had to go in and delete like 4 of them.
So I hope that you are more social media savvy than Robbie is.
Yeah, you're in charge. You guys can figure that out.
I got this.
You stick to Instagram.
Yeah, I'll do that.
What else we got? We kind of have a shout out this week.
Well, it's a mystery.
It's a mystery shout out. So we got a review on iTunes, which, by the way, we'd like to encourage all of you to rate and rate and write a review. Review. Us on iTunes. I don't know if you can on Shout Engine, but definitely hit us up on iTunes.
So when you do that on iTunes, that's how your podcast gets ranked
or moved up on the list of podcasts.
And so the more people that rate us and leave us reviews, the more likely we are for our rank to rise, and then we might get featured on iTunes front page, and I would literally die. That'd be it.
Well, hopefully he figuratively dies because we need him to continue.
If you want Adam to die, keep reviewing.
If you hate me and you just want this to be Michael and Robbie,
just continue to rate the podcast.
Rating.
I think that's fair. I think people will get into that. But we got a review from a guy called Bobo Wombat and
Bobo
Wombat. And if that's you, we want to know who you are. First of all, because your iTunes name is awesomely ridiculous. But we just want to know.
It's fun to say. Try it with us.
Bobo Wombat. But anyway, we just want to know who it is. And you're the listener of the week, apparently.
So
we
shoot us a message or DM or whatever
DM.
Robbie calls them.
DMs,
is that?
Yeah, that's the thing he sends to random models on our Instagram account. Those are DMs that they all ignore.
Is that a dick message then? Or?
It could be.
Now I get it. Don't send us a DM, actually. Send us a PM. No, don't send us a PM.
If he did, we wouldn't know who he was.
Send us a private
message.
G-rated message with no pictures in it.
Wow.
We broke Adam. Adam's crying. Let's go to the next thing. What's the next thing that we have to do?
We have stickers coming hopefully this week. I plan on actually, if things go really well, I'd like to have them shipped out with T-shirts. We might actually have T-shirts already ordered by the time this gets posted. I plan to really push that, what will now be last week. So we should have those ordered here in a week or two. And
yeah, so if you hear this and you want one, hit us up immediately because maybe we'll have one or two extra where we can add some to the order.
Right.
All right, should we move into the topics?
Yeah, I don't even know where we're at on this stuff this
week. So we had a major failure of a day today. So today is, what is today? Saturday the 2nd. And we were going to go to our first 10 Tenths event of the season, which was is it just called Des Moines Cars and Coffee?
Yes.
Because there's two of them, and I was trying to differentiate between the two. Because the one that we go to is in they're both kind of in West Des Moines.
They're both in West Des Moines.
Or the other one's in Clive, maybe, or Urbandale. But anyway.
I thought the other one was on Merle Hay.
Yeah, I can't tell if that's Clive or Urbandale or West Des Moines.
I'm pretty sure that's Urbandale.
So we go to the one in West Des Moines, which is Caribou Coffee. And, so we had plans to go to that this morning. And then Adam had a baby thing come up because he's a new father and he had to do baby things.
Quite a deal.
So he had a thing that he had to do. And then Robbie and I, none of us have cars. So I went down to Indianola and picked up the pickup, which turned out one of the battery terminals had just broken off of.
So how does that happen?
I don't know.
Because the only way I can see that happening is if the battery terminal is too small and
it crunched it.
And you had to over tighten it or something.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the battery terminal, obviously it's it's like a circle with a screw in it.
This is a top post one, not a side post one.
Yeah, top post one. So you screw that screw in to tighten it to clamp it around the terminal, and for some reason, that metal's usually really malleable. It's soft.
I think it's lead.
Is it lead? Is it still
That's
lead?
what I've always assumed it was.
It might be lead. Now everything's lead free, because God forbid somebody lick it.
Those.
Right, except for those. Yeah, go ahead, lick a battery terminal, see what happens.
I chew on them.
Fair enough. Just touch them both at the same time.
You'd have to have a really long tongue to do that.
Be impressive. I wouldn't even be mad. So for some reason,
Simmons over here.
The one of them broke off. That circle, it kind of broke, and it was just a gap. And so basically, it would almost
was it the positive terminal?
Yeah.
So somebody posted that picture today on Facebook of with all the negativity on Facebook. Here's a positive picture, or here's a positive post. It's just a picture, and I almost shared that on our Facebook page and said something about Michael's having battery troubles.
Here it is. Yeah.
But I thought it'd be funny, and then I was like, no one's gonna get it, so I just left it.
That's all right. You could have sent it to our messaging thread that we all talk about on, but that's okay.
That gets all sorts of messy, so.
Yeah, no worries. So anyway, obviously those are easy to come by, so went and grabbed one of those, put that on, truck started, no problem. First time I've ever gotten in a vehicle and went somewhere got in an old vehicle and went somewhere and it worked the whole time?
Well, it didn't though, because it didn't work
Well,
out.
once we got it
Once
going,
he fixed the battery, it was fine.
once we fixed the battery, it was no problem.
So once I fixed it, there was no problem.
No. Usually there's multiple issues on the journey. If you haven't left yet, that doesn't count.
Is it back home yet?
Yeah, I took it back home because I didn't want to deal with it tonight.
Oh, I was going to say, is that because the journey's not done?
No.
It's sitting in your garage.
I knew I wanted to get. I wanted to keep the record clean. I wanted to have a full journey where there were no issues. So I was just like, I'm just going to take it back.
The less time it sits, the better chances that happening.
So we got the truck up here. Robbie and I got ready to go to the Cars and Coffee, and apparently there was a fucking hurricane happening here in West Des Moines because,
50-mile-an-hour gusts.
at least. Did you see the scaffolding over there was blowing away?
Katie thought there was a train going by. I was like, it's been going for the last 45 minutes since you woke up, Katie. You really think that's a train?
Yeah, so the wind was crazy, blowing, the recycling bins around the neighborhood and scaffolding and all kinds of crap. So we made an attempt to go anyway. We're like, well, we'll see, because it's kind of down in this bowl.
You're not very far away, and it's like,
That's like 2 miles.
2 miles from your house?
So we get there. It's absolutely ridiculously windy, and so we decided to go in and get coffee. And while we're in there trying to get coffee, I'm screwing with the camera, and for some reason the camera's not working. So the camera's freaking out, and it won't shoot any pictures. So I'm like, this is
your
worthless.
brand new one?
No, this is the old one.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, well, this is kind of worthless. So I'm like, okay, why don't we just go walk around? You can't freaking walk around. The wind's trying to blow you over. It's blowing sand in your face, and I can't believe people were standing out there.
Yeah, the weird thing was, it was the most people I've ever seen at a Cars and Coffee.
Yeah.
Well,
Packed.
so the one we made it to last year,
It was the last one of the year.
and there were 2 going on, and the other one is much more popular than this one has been
Right.
historically. So we went to the wrong one unknowingly.
Okay.
So the other one's more popular? The one on
The
Merle?
one on Merle Hay is the one that gets like all the Ferraris and fancy things that
Right.
people associate with the Cars and Coffee generally.
Which is kind of odd. You would think they'd be over here, maybe.
Well,
the new
so-
money's over on this side of town.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you would know.
So frustrating.
You live here too.
Yeah, jerk.
It's kind of a
What
kettle
get
called
you
the
as
pot
well.
black.
are we going to
I'm
have a
just
lake
saying.
house measuring competition? What are we doing here?
Oh yeah, I've given Robbie some information that he could potentially use against me. So maybe we should move on.
What? We'll talk about this off.
We'll talk about this off air. Maybe we'll talk about it some other time. But yeah, there was like, I don't know, 50 or 60 cars there.
That's pretty good considering it was with wind chill. It had to have been around 30.
It was,
Oh, I
it was
would
like
say
it was
so.
like 45 degrees out with a 50-mile-an-hour wind. It was
Miserable.
just impossible to be outside. And then there was 50, 60 cars, and they had this little section of the parking lot all blocked off, and it was full, completely full. Every parking space was full except for the idiots that parked in 2 spaces.
You know where the REI is? It would
Yeah.
be to the north of the REI?
Yeah, it's just right there.
No, it would
Which
be
side
to
is it north?
the east of it.
East of the REI.
East.
That whole lot
But-
was full.
So someone brought like a snowmobile and a
Yeah, what was that
Polaris
about?
Razor.
Did you see that?
I saw it on the pictures.
I didn't see it there.
Yeah, we didn't see it there either. There was also a little cart thing or a little
Like a
formula car.
formula cart.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was weird. It was sitting right next to him. So
Oh, I
somebody
guess I couldn't see
trailered.
that in the picture.
Somebody had to have trailered that crap up there. You can't drive a snowmobile on no snow.
No, it ends poorly. Well, so they make smooth tracks and wheeled front skis because
Yeah.
when I used to drag race, guys would bring their snowmobiles out and they drag race them in June. That way,
So you can run the tracks on concrete.
you get a smooth track. It's
Oh, it's a
designed
different
for
track.
it. Yeah, it's designed for it, and then the skis are replaced
You get a
with.
wheel.
They have 2 wheels, and it's just like a flat piece of metal with 2 wheels on it.
It seems like there's so many other things that you could do in the world before you got to the point where you had to convert a snowmobile to go on the road.
So I don't really understand why you don't own a snowmobile anyway, because you get to use them like 2 times a year. So I guess if you own one and you want to use it, it's better than sitting in the garage
as
all the
opposed
time.
to
Yeah, I
like
guess. You should
a motorcycle or a 4-wheeler or a car or a
just get a
boat
jet ski. Yeah,
or
get
a jet ski.
Oh, man, we should get jet skis.
We should get jet
Do you have jet
skis.
skis?
Shut up.
Carbon fiber jet skis.
Not any carbon fiber jet skis, no.
Okay.
So we were there for all of shut up, Robbie. We were there for all of
Everyone's gonna think Michael's just loaded.
this is the new joke, I guess.
I like this.
We were there for we were outside for all of probably 3 minutes.
Yep. We parked the truck, walked directly past all the cars to the coffee, waited in line for a half hour. 'cause
Super
there was-
long line.
Unreal.
Duh.
And then we got our coffee, and then we went back outside, went a loop all the way through the parking lot, and right back to the truck and left.
We couldn't even go. We were gonna walk around, go through each aisle, just check it out, and then leave. We walked down one aisle, completely miserable, crap blown in our face. Screw it, we're out of here.
I can't believe that people were bringing their cars in on that. Because
I can't believe it
that
either.
sand whipping up.
Yeah.
That's not good on paint.
And everybody obviously realized this was an issue besides us because everybody was crowded around the edge of the building to get out of the wind. I'm like, why don't you just go home?
Yeah, they weren't even looking at the cars. They're all just packed up against each
fair
other.
weather car guys. That's our problem, apparently.
That's fine.
Maybe, but I don't want to stand around with sand getting blown in my eyes looking at cars because it's kind of hard.
If I was racing cars, it'd be different.
Right.
I might deal with it.
It's motivation for being there.
I might deal with it. But looking at other people's cars, I don't really care that much.
No.
So I guess since it was season opener, maybe people were just a little bit more excited. But we get another attempt next weekend and the weekend after that because Carl's is next weekend.
Carl's is next weekend, and then they moved theirs to the weekend after that, and there's one in Ames on that same day, and I'm probably going to go to that one.
Is that at Billion?
No, it's at George White.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
There's not a Billion.
No, there's not.
Not anymore, anyway. Or is that what the Honda dealer?
Maybe the Honda's Billion. Yeah, that
I
might
don't know.
be.
But it's George White's the GM dealer.
So maybe we'll see how things are going because the 68 might be done this week.
And the 240, the 240 might be back then, too.
Katie's, some of Katie's, this is not shit we need to talk about on the podcast,
That's all right.
but whatever. Some of Katie's family's coming that weekend, and one of them is her car-loving cousin. So we were going to go to the Cars and Coffee in Ames, and then Sunday we're going to go to the first Autocross in Adventureland.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's
coming up.
That Sunday.
Yeah, it's coming up. That's the 17th. I got to do a lot of stuff to my car.
I wasn't planning on racing at that one.
I'm still waiting for parts, so.
Yeah, so that... did you volunteered for something, didn't you? You said
I said I would do timing.
Yeah.
I'll go there and help out and
I might do timing
look pretty
with
and
you.
hand out business cards.
I'd like to go because I think this is good. I think this is a step in the right direction for our club. They want to be more welcoming to beginners.
So one of the things we'll talk about it. Whatever.
We're there.
One of the things I've never understood about, and this isn't just our club. I think this is a lot of autocrossing in general because the club that I race with occasionally in Sioux Falls, although not to the extent we have, has a similar problem. And that is that at every event you've got, during the drivers meeting, they ask who's never been here before. And 10, 12
There's always a few.
Always raise their hands. And then they never come back again.
No.
And when you go and you talk to them a little bit, they love it. They're having a great time, but then they never come back, and I don't know why.
I wonder if they just don't know when the next one is, or they don't. Maybe they're too nervous because they announced that obviously in the drivers' meeting, or maybe they're just too focused on I don't want to screw this up, and so they don't hear when the next one is, and then they miss the next one, and then they miss the one after that, and then they just kind of get disengaged and don't come back.
Well, I think that's why making the events, all of the events right now, instead of, because last year, or previous years, the
It's one at a
DMVR,
time.
okay, that event's over. Let's make the next Facebook event,
Yeah.
a week later.
Yep.
And now these are all out. And if you look at them, there are a ton of people who are at least interested, if not checked as going to all of those events because Facebook does a pretty good job of getting random events on to people's pages. And, all of us car guys are friends. So you see, Robbie's going there. I'll at least be interested in it.
For some reason, Facebook has decided that you are the delegate or representative of
Apparently
our car
that's
people.
me.
Because it happens, Adam, you say that you're going to something random, and it shows up on my page. Sometimes it's not even car related. I don't know what the deal is.
Like the Boston concert you're interested in
Yeah,
going
now
to?
I want to go to the Boston concert.
Yeah, we're going to that. So my parents are going. Boston,
this
Kansas,
Wii stuff, I'm not going to that.
Kansas, Blue Oyster Cult.
You got to
It'll
go
be
to
a
that
blast.
one. You got to go to that one time.
Are you kidding me?
Listen, we're going to go to Slipknot. We're going to go to Deftones, and we're going to go to Boston. It's going to be a great time.
No. I'm going to Slipknot, and I'm going to somehow try to make it to the Machine Gun Kelly concert, which is at
Machine Gun
515, or the 515 EDM festival thing.
They're
Which I don't. I guess.
Are you going to bring a Scorpion?
Machine Gun Kelly is playing at.
Yeah, he's one of the headliners.
3580 or
No,
8035
515.
515 Alive.
There it is. That's what it's called.
It's a little different.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to make it to that.
We've gone down a completely different path. But let's bring it back.
This is going to be the worst one we've done yet.
No. So anyway, I think it's good that they're doing this, trying to welcome new people into the DMVR. So I would like to be there to try to be supportive, to give tuition if people need it.
So one of the friends of the podcast, Chaz, has accepted a position on the board for our club, and he's really trying to bring the club around to being more friendly to younger people.
Right. Which is going to be really important if the club wants to exist.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, and on that note, let's transition into the next topic.
Look at this guy.
Professional.
Rolling right.
I've been listening to a lot of Jason Ellis and a lot of Joe Rogan, so I got my transitions all set up. I got my notes.
I thought the first 2 episodes, that was my job. I brought us back.
Yeah, it's true. You did.
But I've kind of lost my touch.
So the next thing we wanted to talk about is in the same vein. So it's preparing for the autocross season, and it seems like all 3 of us have been kind of working through the same issues with both tires and alignment.
Well, so we all have basically new suspension this year. Robbie has a bunch of new parts.
Yep.
He's still got the same shocks or the same coilover setup, but everything that attaches to it is brand new.
That's a good.
Everything that he has some sort of thread and nut on it.
Yeah, it's insane.
Every single piece.
Yep.
And then I have entirely new coilovers, and as do you on an entirely new car.
And even on the Fiat, it's got the subframe that's on it now is from a different year. So it's
Does
a little
that add
bit.
anything to you?
It might. We don't know.
Has it been on a rack yet?
No. See, well, that's the other thing. So I was talking to my dad about this last night because I was like, we got to try to get this figured out so we can get this car set up so we can actually run it. I had forgotten when we originally bought that car that they weren't able to align it properly.
In what way?
We think when it was on the rack, we discovered that it had been in an accident. And so the whole front subframe was tweaked because one side you could only get like 1.5 degrees of camber out of it. And then that was it. All the shims that the guy wanted to put in were in. He's like, I can't put any more in.
Without being dangerously low on threads or something?
Yeah. So I had forgotten that because that was, like I said, 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time I was like, yeah,
just
whatever.
a little kid at that point.
Yeah, right. At that time I was like, whatever. So
Michael's 12. So.
I'm 12 years old. Yep. I act like it all the time. So I don't know what this new subframe is capable of as far as,
You're hoping that it was the subframe and not the frame itself?
Well, yeah, because the car is unibody.
Oh, that's true.
So the whole car would have to be pretty tweaked if it was the whole car.
Yeah, and it probably wouldn't sit flat or track straight, which it does.
Yeah, so something was wrong with the front of it, and since I broke the front of it and it's all been replaced, we'll see what it'll do this year.
Robbie knows how it feels to have a wrecked car and have to fix
true.
all the stupid stuff.
Well, I'm in the same boat because I threw it on the rack last year to get it straightened, and this is before I really started going down the path of having a more of aggressive setup, messing with toe, messing with camber, caster, all that stuff. I just said make it straight, and then they put it on the rack and said, "Yes, this has been an accident. We're going to get as close as we possibly can." I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of what I need here." But
I didn't realize that your car had been in an accident.
oh yeah,
His salvage title, I think.
Yeah, I got wrecked in the front and got poorly rebuilt before we got
Yeah,
it.
we talked about this.
Well, I knew it was a salvage title.
Yep. Yeah, and I got hit in the front, and then not the frame because it's the unibody, but
It's like they call it the K member sometimes.
where the front bumper member all comes to the rest of the body.
Right.
All that
I
was
still call them frame rails.
it's
Sure.
basically what they are. The
Yep.
frame rails were welded back together with it looked like a stick welder, and there was a gap in it. So we cut all that out and sleeved it. I think we already talked about this.
Should have
Okay.
tubed it and been all sorts of race car about it.
We should have. But yeah, so there is a tweak in the frame rail, whatever you want to call it. So it's we can get it as close as we possibly can. So we'll see what my
You should have
alignment
more
guy says
adjustment this year, though, with all the
I would
stuff that
hope
you've
so.
done. Okay. You should be able to get it back
If
to
Robbie
something that
can't
you
get
want.
it straightened out, he probably should park it in a junkyard at this point because, damn.
Never seen so many adjustable Megan parts in my entire life.
Yeah,
awesome.
it's awesome.
There's
I'm
a
so
lot of
excited
stuff.
about it.
The problem
the
is, though, now you
little-
have so many options. You have so many things that you could do.
Tweaking and adjusting alignment and arrow parts and little stuff like that gives you little bits. That stuff really geeks me out. I don't know why.
So let's have a...
Yeah, so do we want to go down?
Yeah.
We're really, we kind of leapfrogged everything we need to get to. We should probably
Okay, sorry.
talk about the basics here, explain some things, and then we could talk about what
Is this kind of like our intermediate guide to racing?
Or maybe even...
we did kind of jump to intermediate because we were throwing out terms like camber and caster and toe, and everyone's like,
Yeah, not
hell is
everybody
that?
may know what that stuff is. So let's go through the basics. So you got toe.
Which
Toe
is
in or toe
which
out?
directions the front of your tires point.
Yep. Or
So-
your rear tires. But
Yeah,
your
so
tires.
you're-
I said the
The front of your tires. Yep.
yeah. So your front. So if your tires are pointed toward, if you're pigeon toed, you'd be toe in. If you're duck-toed and your feet are pointed out, that would be toe out.
My car, you can. So most of the time, most cars are zero toe or very little, so little that you can't really look at it and see. Mm-hmm. My Omni is so painfully obvious that I have an insane amount of toe.
Out?
Yeah. I have a boatload.
Is that the way you want to run it, is with a ton of toe out?
So if that was a street car, like a daily driven, that's why that car is scary to drive down the road more than like 60 or 65 miles an hour.
Okay.
Is because with all that toe, it's very darty.
Yeah.
But your turn in is right there, right now, because your wheels or your tire is already turned a little bit.
Yeah, pointed.
So with an autocross where a very small percentage of the time that you have your wheels straight, you want toe. If you have a hardcore autocross setup like my car was built to be, most of those cars have a lot of toe on the front because your turn in is much more sharp. But you can go too far, and then it becomes
too much. Yeah. How much? So when you were researching your toe out, how much do you want?
I never found a number because I don't know that they can just say this is too much toe because that's probably chassis and suspension dependent.
Sure.
But my car is 0.75.
Ooh.
Which is huge.
That's a ton. I didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah, and he's talking inches. Like it's pointed
Robbie,
out.
Robbie you were talking about an eighth, weren't you? You were talking about an 1/8 inch toe out.
Yes.
And Michael's like, "Are you sure you want that much?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Mine's 3/4. What's the deal?"
Yep,
It's
so
fine.
my setup this year, I'm going to go through 1/8 of an inch toe out in the front, and 1/8 of an inch toe in on the back.
Yeah.
So toe in on the front is basically a no-no to my understanding. Or
toe in on the front?
toe in. Actually, I think toe in makes...
Toe in is good for daily drivers. A little bit.
Front.
Like 1 degree, 2 degree. Just a little bit. And then I can't come up... I looked at this. I can't come up with a consensus on this. If you're doing big track things, big tracks, big, fast...
100-mile-an-hour tracks.
140-mile-an-hour straight.
We're doing HPDs, club events,
I can't
etc.
find a consensus on whether or not you want to run just a little bit of toe out or just a little bit of toe in. Neutral's bad, definitely.
Front?
Right, on the front.
I think you want to... I think you'd always want a little bit out.
See, I don't think that that's true. I can't find
Why
a
would I
consensus.
want in?
Because you're doing 140 in a straight line.
And?
You want to go in a straight line. You don't want to turn. You want to go in a straight line.
But you have to turn sometimes too.
You do. But you have a much bigger space to turn than you do in an autocross. In an autocross, you need immediate turn right this second. If you're doing 140 down a straight, you want to make sure that you're going in a straight line, but you've got a pretty decent, turn-in space to make that corner, as opposed to autocross where you have to turn right on this dime now.
See, I think I would go with something similar to Robbie's setup, where you have just a little bit of toe out, not a lot, just like an 16th to an 1/8 of an inch out, because I think you still want good crisp turn-in feel, and I think, I don't know, that's how I feel about it.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I just say I cannot. I've looked at guys that have V8 swapped RX-7s. I've seen people claim one thing. I've seen people claim another. I just can't find a true consensus like you do on Camber or even Caster. That
this
seems
is
a
what
little
geeks
bit
me out about this stuff. Is I would love to be able to get to a point where I can quickly change and measure that stuff out on a trackside and set it one way, go out and run a session, come back in, change it, go out and run another session, and see, okay, I definitely don't want this because the other way was better.
And it may be a situation where it's tire dependent too, because maybe if you're running a slick, you can get it really nice and hot. It could completely, maybe you don't need toe out because the reaction on that slick is going to be immediate no matter what. I mean, to some degree, but that could definitely change the toe in or toe out that you need to run with those tires, So
while we're talking about toe and tires,
yep.
So a lot of people think that having negative caster is what destroys tires, and having negative camber is what destroys tires. Having negative camber within reason, none of this stance life stuff, where you've got
15 degrees,
double digits of negative camber. But if you have 1 to 3 degrees of negative camber, that doesn't hurt tire wear nearly as much as having a bunch of toe. Because
Again, we just leapfrogged ourselves. What is camber?
See, damn it. Sorry.
Explain
Camber
camber.
is the top of your tires leaning in or out
Thank you.
as the car is stationary.
Right. And you're looking for negative.
You almost always want negative.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, you'd never want to go positive.
That if you are drag racing,
Okay.
there is a small amount of positive camber in the back
Right.
because when the car launches and squats, it will flatten itself out.
Okay.
And that
makes
helps maintain tire pad.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because that makes sense.
Like we're going to try to run. Well, I'm running Hoosiers this year, and I assume you're doing.
I do, but I'm running non-DOT.
Okay. Well,
So my rules are a little different than yours.
Okay, so like there's Hoosier.com or Hoosier in general has a spec for their tires. You can look it up as a PDF, like 6-page document that tells you basically everything about the tire. And one of the things they tell me for the Hoosier A6s and A7s or A7 and R7s is that they need to be ran at 3 degrees negative camber, and that's their optimal
for maximizing performance.
Yes. So,
But they do say that will somewhat limit life.
yep, the more camber you have, the more it's going to wear in one area. Same with toe. Like if you're running 3/4 of an inch of toe,
But toe will
gonna
kill a tire. If this is your daily driver, toe will kill a tire much quicker than camber will, because when you have toe out and you're driving down the road, you're scrubbing
the entire time.
the entire
Yep.
time.
Yep.
And it's
So-
really hard on
So
tires.
take everything we say right this year too, especially because we have street tires that we're going to run to the track, and then we switch to other rims and tires when we're at the track. So our setups might be more aggressive than anything anyone else might run.
My car doesn't get 1,000 street miles a year because all it does is get driven. Well, 95% of the miles it gets are driven from my house to the race event and home again.
See, and I'm different because like I enjoy driving my car constantly. I have every intention of having it be a complete balance between race and street. So
I will drive mine to work occasionally, and
Yep.
I'll bring it to shows. But I don't take it down the interstates or anything.
I will
like that,
take it-
'cause my
I will-
alignment's too aggressive.
Right. I will take mine to Minneapolis this year. I have every intention of taking it to Lake of the Ozarks, Kansas City, maybe Chicago. Like these really awesome shows that I want to go to. I have every intention of just driving it there. I'm not going to trailer it.
Nah, I'll trailer mine.
So
So
I'm-
I'll break down.
So right now it's a little bit. I need to find that balance of performance versus am I going to destroy my tires driving it to Minneapolis?
And see, this is where, again, I bring in that toe in, toe out argument. I cannot tell you what the right answer is on that.
Right.
And I know you want to run a degree of toe out, which may be
tire
fine.
wear is concerned,
Yeah.
I don't think it matters whether it's in or out. It's going to scrub.
Right. But as far as driving it down the highway, if you got to drive 400 miles on the highway, toe in's probably going to be better. But then you get to the track and you might want toe out, or if you're at, so I'm just saying.
That's
I can't tell you for
Toe
sure
is
or
one
anybody
of the
else.
easiest things to adjust.
That is true, yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people that figure out how many threads in I have to go to change it from this to that, from my track day to my autocross setup, from my street to my track setup, and then they just do that when they get there. They jack the car up while they're changing their tires. They run that out, and then you put it back on the ground, you go race.
Yeah,
right.
he's referring to the tie rod ends. If
Yeah,
no
tie
one's
rod.
ever done that, they're basically just these
They're just a
threaded
rod,
yeah.
and you just run it out a few threads. You figure out how many quarters of a turn it takes on a wrench, and you do that in and out. You just got to make sure that you don't forget which direction you're going.
Yep. Yeah,
that'd be really screwed up.
So that's why I'm going with like only an 1/8 inch total. I think
Like
it'll
I
give,
said, I
it'll
think
give me
that's a safe number.
Yep. I think it won't destroy tires, but it'll definitely give me a little bit more performance.
Yep. I think that's probably fair.
Yep. And then before we kind of go down there, a lot of my stuff that like for the 240s, there's really weird niches for the 240s. I was able to find a drifting spec for how to set up your car for drifting. And then there's all sorts of stuff on like, well, if you want to slam it and do the low life, I couldn't find anything for like road racing or like autocross or anything like that. So we kind of argued back and forth, me and Adam especially, the drifter front end, like the front setup for a suspension on the 240 for drifting, would probably be similar to that of a autocross.
See, I think that apparently they don't like a lot of camber in the back.
The weird thing about
Which
drifting
I thought
is
was weird.
And maybe I'm not 100% wrong, and maybe this article or 100% right, and this article's not quite accurate from what I can tell. They run the front will be basically the same as anything I would run. So I followed that spec, and then their rears are basically true, perfectly centered, perfectly straight.
Are they running any toe on the rear or just straight?
I can't remember exactly, but I think they're running just straight in the rear. And and it's obvious in the picture that the front one's got a little bit of camber, a little bit of toe out, and then negative camber and a little bit of toe out. And then the rear is completely true.
You can just assume when we're talking about a little bit of camber or a lot of bit of camber or whatever, it's always negative. Right. Because unless we're talking about hella gap, which is our
running joke.
Our running joke, we're not doing positive camber.
Right, exactly. So let's try to bring this all into what we're actually going to do here.
The drift thing. I want to reiterate this to our listeners. I think that the goal for a drift car is to have a car that's very predictable and rotates easily.
Right.
Both of those things are good in an autocross scenario because you want your car to rotate very quickly because you're doing very tight corners, and you always want your car to be predictable. So to me, now obviously you're going to run different spring rates and different sway bars or something like that than what a drift would because you don't want that much oversteer. But their alignment specs should be very similar in my mind.
Yeah, and it seems to be the case because I posted on a couple of sites that were obviously they're Nissan or 240 specific, and I said, hey, I can't find anything on this, and a guy sent me to NissanRoadRacing.com and said, here's what I would run, and it was at that point I had kind of discussed it with you, Adam, and I've discussed it I researched all this online, I found this page, and he besides that a half a degree here and there, him and I were basically on the same page already. So at least I knew that I kind of went down the right path.
This is where forums come in handy. Doubling back to our beginner's guide conversation, this is when forums are useful. You can go out there, you can search, you can see what other people have done, and if no one's posted about it anywhere, you can't find it. You can post and you can ask. But remember, take all that stuff with a grain of salt.
Try to find a guy that has a picture of him maybe doing drift things or road racing, because that's what I found when I was looking at the Fiat stuff. There's almost no information about the Fiat. But if you can find a guy that's got a picture of a legit de-prepared, no windshield Fiat, probably going to ask him questions about his alignment setup.
My other thing is the guy with 50,000 posts probably isn't a dumbass. That's not always true.
Yeah,
but if he has 12 posts, he's less likely to know what he's talking about than the guy with 50,000.
Yeah, and if it's something that he posts that's way out there, not if you kind of started researching and you can't come up with an answer, and you're like, well, maybe it's this and this, and he posts something that's way out of left field, maybe he's trolling you. Don't set up your car based on what somebody just blindly tells you to set it up.
Use a couple of sources. How about that? So before we move on to Caster, can we talk about? I want to try to make this live for people, I guess. So what is your setup going to be, Robbie, on the front and the back? Because we've kind of talked about the front, kind of talked about the back. Let's put some numbers on the front and the back. Give me 1 second
to pull it up. Let's go. What's Adam running right now?
Well, so I have about almost 2 degrees of negative camber in the front, but I have none in the back because I have a solid rear axle.
Right.
And I guess I have a half degree because that's the way it's built. But I found out that there is a way to fix that, and so this year I plan on running 2 to 3 degrees of negative camber in the back.
Okay.
But the car has no toe in the back, obviously.
Yep.
Because it's a
solid
axle. And I have like I said, I have a ton of toe in the front, and I don't have a ton of caster. I only have 3 or 4 degrees of caster, which isn't a lot. It's not a little, but it's not a lot either.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit.
You don't have caster in the back unless you have a car that steers, because caster is a steering angle number.
Yes. So the funny thing was this winter, I replaced all of my control arms, all my sway bars, everything that you can bolt. Like you said, everything I can bolt to my suspension, I replaced it. So I kind of eyeballed it, got it to what looked like it was the same setup as what I had. Clearly it wasn't going to be perfect, so I just bolted everything on, and then we tried to get it on the trailer, and my left tire was a little bit of toe in, then everything's off a little bit, something I wouldn't drive down the road ever. And then I realized that when my wheel is straight, I had probably an inch of toe in on the right one. So when I'm trying to pull it on the trailer, it's clearly just kind of dragging that wheel along.
Yeah.
So then we get it to the shop, and they're obviously the tuner guys are making fun of me because my alignment's so far. I was like, trust me, it's all new. I didn't drive it this way. But yeah, so right now that led us down to the path well, they're going to get it running right. They're going to get it tuned now that I'm on the tuning schedule. And then once it's done, they're just going to drive it a block and a half to this other shop that does any alignment you want. So then he goes, well, you should look it up and get it all figured out. So that's when we started this research. From what I could tell, my rears, I didn't go quite as aggressive with the camber. I went negative 2.5 degrees. I'm trying to not wear out those bad, just because I do have a tendency to spin my rear tires. So I'm going to wear those out even faster anyways.
Yeah, if you have a lot of power,
which I
like
might.
Robbie probably will.
Arguably allow it.
At least for an autocross scenario. The more camber you have, the less contact patch you have in a straight line.
Yep.
So, yeah, if you have a ton of power, you might want to back a little bit off of the camber number so you can put that power down.
Yep. So I went negative 2.5 degrees camber in the back and then 1/8 inch toe in. And that's supposed to help with getting grip and traction and all that stuff. And then for the fronts, I went negative 3 degrees camber, 1/8 inch toe out, and then positive 7 degrees caster.
So with rear-wheel drive cars, when you launch, you have a little bit of toe in, because when you launch, the way that everything twists, it will push the front of the tires out just a little bit. And so the idea is if you have a little bit of toe in the back, when you launch the car, it will straighten it out ever so slightly and help you keep traction.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to try to explain that, but I knew I wasn't going to get as good as that. Thank you.
This is my drag racing knowledge coming into play, because that was where the positive camber and stuff, that's why I know that.
Yeah. So I'm basically going to run the same setup as Robbie. I may run 0.5 degree less camber in the front and in the back, because I'm going to have 200 treadwears on the RX-7 for this year anyway. But basically, from what I could find, that's the same setup that you need from the RX-7, and that, that would make sense because those cars are very similar.
Yeah, they're very similar, so I would imagine.
Yeah.
And I guess that kind of brings up the question I was always wondering. Because you have a front-wheel drive car, how much more dramatically different would your setup be? Like, if you ran our setup, would it be the same performance?
I don't think that for the most part, a lot of the alignment stuff really changes that much from drivetrain style to drivetrain style that I know of anyway. I'm sure I'm sure when you get into like really advanced alignment stuff, because you're trying to find that last 100th of a second to beat what's his name.
Right.
Then there's probably little bits here and there. And I know in drag racing, there's little bits here and there because front wheel drive cars have a tendency to torque steer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And you can help dial that out with different alignment settings, but I don't know what they are because I don't really have to know.
I vaguely ran across something that said, I don't know what they recommended to do differently, but it does, the way the chassis loads is different because on a front-wheel drive car, obviously it's pulling, and then on a rear-wheel drive car, it's pushing when you apply the power. So there is something different. You're supposed.
There's stuff with anti-squat, anti-dive that I don't understand, and it's there's little to no adjustment in a normal suspension for squat and dive.
Yeah.
So I don't really research it because it doesn't matter to me because I can't change it anyway.
Yeah. This is a good time to stamp this with our disclaimer. This is all crap that we found on the internet. We are not experts in alignment by any means.
Would never claim to be.
No.
So this is more of this is how we came to this.
We're sharing our trials and tribulations more than anything else.
So in 6 months we can come back and say, man, were we wrong?
Holy crap, don't do that.
That was stupid.
Turns out you don't want toe out the front.
Yeah, but now, so tell us about your alignment setup. You talked about toe, but did you?
Well, so this year, because my suspension is completely different, I'm not really sure where I'm going to be because in some respects I have more adjustment than I've ever had before, and in other respects I have less because my car doesn't have or did not have camber caster plates on it in the traditional sense of the word. The guy that owns my car before, he built some custom top hats for the coilovers I had that gave him as much camber as he could get within the rule books, and that was where it was, and so there was no adjustability to it. And what I found out is that my car, as it sits, versus the newer Neon, which is what my suspension is actually built to fit on, there is a 5 degree positive camber difference. So if I say my camber plate that comes on there has 5 degrees of adjustment, negative, all 5 of it will be eaten up in just getting to 0.
Oh man. Okay.
So from what I could find, now not very many people have ran this setup, so I'm not 100% sure, but from what I could find, without changing some of the lower knuckles and stuff like that to newer neon stuff, I won't be able to get more than 1.5 or 2 degrees of camber out of it.
Okay. I was just going to ask if, like, on your coilover setup, if you have easily adjustable camber set, or easily
so mine have
camber
camber
plates.
mine have camber and caster plates.
Okay. Yeah, because I have the camber plates too, where I think I go like 15 degrees either direction, or something crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but no, mine. I don't think mine's that. I think mine's like 6 or 7 degrees, and 5 of it is eaten up in just getting back to 0.
So basically, you're just going to slam yours into the
Yeah,
inside.
mine's just going to go all the way in, and it's going to be what it is.
Okay.
And so the bottom of where my strut mounts into my spindle, I can put offset bolts in there and get some more camber. And the car already had those in there, and so I don't know how much I'm actually going to end up with, but from what I've researched and what vague things I could find in 5 to 7 year old posts,
Of course.
I can get like 1.5 to 2 degrees of camber out of the car with this suspension setup on it.
Okay. Well, then we can. Yeah, I would say now that we kind of.
But my toe will stay the same.
Yep.
I have no idea where my caster is going to be. I'm going to just probably get as much as I can.
Yeah, let's discuss that. Why would we want
So
all the caster?
Caster is
Wait a minute.
Wow.
Wait, let me pull up my notes on this. None of us fully understand.
Yeah.
We kind of understand. Every time I read about it, I understand it for
a
20
little
minutes.
bit better.
No, I understand it for 20 minutes, and then it goes away.
Yep. It makes
to look
sense
it up
as I read it, and
Right.
then when I'm done
Well,
reading it,
So
it's
what I've
lost.
found out is that I'll read about this stuff and I'll be like, well, I kind of get it, but I don't really get it. And then I'll go out and I'll race and I'll be like, oh, it'll click.
Yeah.
I'll be in the car, I'll be driving the car, something will happen, I'll be working on the car, whatever, and it will click and I'll be like, I get it now. And I'll go back and read it again and it's entirely new to me. So that's kind of where I'm at on this stuff. I'm still learning it, I'll admit it. But
So
caster,
we've all got our notes out here. Let's see if we can explain
caster
caster.
provides the self-centering effect of the steering wheel, and which is the tendency for the car to steer straight ahead without holding the steering wheel. So positive caster is what you want. You never use negative caster from what I've seen, and I don't know why you'd ever want your steering wheel not to self-center.
Right.
But basically, from what I can find, on a standard production car, you really can't go too far with caster. But I think if you do get too far, it starts to become difficult to turn. And so if you have a car that does not have power steering and you're running a shitload of caster and a car is really hard to get to come back to straight, maybe back off a little.
I think that number is like 8 degrees. I think at 8 degrees on a normal car, production car, if you can even get that much out of it,
Right.
that might be too much. And okay, try to explain how this works. So the caster is really, if you're looking at the wheel, and you think of a wheel, it's got to draw a line that's perfectly perpendicular to the ground. You think that that's what the wheel rotates on. That's not true. Caster is the angle of that line that you've drawn perpendicularly to the ground. So it's going to be slightly tipped one direction, which would be to the, well, it depends on what you're looking at. Is it to the front or to the back? The top of the line.
It's to the positive.
Here, hold on. Oh, I had it too. I had a really good.
Oh, get our books out.
Yep.
Robbie went to school to be a mechanic at one point
so
in his life.
he's
so
got
he's
all
got
these
these
books.
automotive textbooks that explain all this stuff.
Okay. So this is, of course, it has a diagram. It makes perfect sense with the diagram.
We're going to have to post this online so people can see it.
So, in the automotive textbook that we learned at school, it was the caster angle on a vehicle equipped with a McPherson strut, which is basically anything we're going to use, is created by the difference between the true vertical line at the wheel center and the steering axis. So it's basically a line is drawn from the upper strut mount to the lower ball joint. Mm-hmm. So if you have positive caster, you're tilting it towards the front or towards the driver.
Yep.
If you have negative caster, it's pushing it towards the front of the car.
Okay, so that line that you've drawn, that supposed to be perpendicular line, if you're looking at the driver's side of the car, the top of that line is going to move towards the driver. I mean, obviously,
Towards
it's going
the back of the car.
Right. Obviously, it's going to rotate in the middle because that's where the wheel spins, right? So that line's going to rotate in the middle, but that line's going to rotate towards the driver. The top of it's going to go towards the driver.
Yes.
That's caster.
That's what you want.
Right.
So another the drifting article actually gave you the
caster is super important in drifting because when you drift, those guys, if you watch those videos, they actually let their steering wheel go and let it slide through their fingers as their car comes around, which you don't do in pretty much anything else. But so caster is very important in drifting because you want your wheel to be able to self-center.
Yep. And so this article didn't go into like the details of what caster is. It basically just says, this is what it does. This is what you want on every car. And so basically I'm just going to read it because I can't really do it any other better way. You want to run as much positive caster as you can without hitting the fenders. This is typically around 7 degrees on most cars. Caster really helps a drift car by making it self-steer. When you start to drift, you simply let go of the wheel and you let it feed through your fingers, and your car will counter faster than you were steering it yourself. Caster also gives you more negative camber as your wheel turns, which helps your front grip. And more caster helps the car turn in better and makes for a car more stable.
So before I understood that caster had something to do with the self-centering effect of the steering wheel, I understood caster as camber when you need it and not when you don't.
Basically.
That might also be fair.
If you're going in a straight line and your wheel is straight, you're not getting any extra camber out of it. But as you turn, the outside wheel in the corner, which is the one that needs grip the most, because of weight transfer, will get extra camber and allow that tire to stay flat on the ground as the car rolls through the corner.
And basically, caster has no effect on wear. Like you could have as much caster as you want; it will not change how your tire.
But I
wears.
believe that you can go too far, and then the car becomes hard to steer.
Yep,
But
and I think caster also has something to do with like the way with feedback to the driver. Like the more caster you have, the better feedback you get.
We love feedback,
which is kind of lost on me because I do have power steering. So it might give you some, but it's not.
So I think a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to take my power steering off of my Miata because it feels better. I bet $10 says that is placebo effect.
Yep. I think you and I had this discussion about a year ago where I went down that road. My power steering pump was starting to go out, and I was like, maybe I should just get rid of the damn thing. And I tried turning my wheel with and pushing the car like through the shop without the engine on, and just turning the wheel. No, I don't want to have to drive like that. It's not fun.
I'm going to be that guy because I don't have power steering in the Fiat.
That's fine.
Just try it out. Just try it.
So
drive the Fiat. Try it without. I'm not. But that's dependent on the car. I'm not saying drive
don't
a Fiat.
Do it in a front wheel drive car. You're going to autocross because
also,
you need power steering because you're trying to turn and move forward with those wheels, and everything's happening through those wheels, and you want that power steering, at least in an autocross situation.
And I think my biggest thing for that is I have every intention of basically driving this car 50-50 track street. The Fiat doesn't do that, so I have no issue with that, and if I was making this track only, I'd be much more inclined to do it. But because I am going to drive this on the street and I'm going to be in parking lots quite often.
The other thing I would say is don't do it on a car that weighs more than like 2,500 pounds.
Which the 240.
I wouldn't do it in the RX-7
your
either.
Fiat, did you depower it or was it always manual?
Always manual.
See, I think that's different. A lot of people take the power steerings off of their Miatas, and I don't think they just plug the power or the hoses.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think
that doesn't
that's
increase your feel. That's not the same thing as having a manual steering rack.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that because I think on the RX-7 you can get a full blown. This was designed to be a manual steering rack.
Well, I also know that if you go on the Miata forums, there are guys that have ways to convert the power steering rack to a manual rack.
Yeah.
There's a right and wrong way to do it, and 95% of the people do it the wrong way.
Of course.
And then they probably don't get any real gain out of it.
Yeah. So I would not advise people to do it. I think you should drive a car that never had power steering because it's an interesting experience, but I wouldn't tell people to do it because I think most people's cars are too heavy, and they'll probably do it wrong.
Right.
Don't do it if you're on a front-wheel drive car.
I think that's fair.
Yes. And then the one things that I could get into, probably won't this year, maybe once we start to really get my car figured out. I got all these like strut bars and like tension rod support bars and all this other stuff that kind of makes my car more rigid. You can preload those, and it'll make your car either.
Now we're getting really into some crazy stuff. Good Lord.
I was kind of reading up on this that I could preload it and it'll make it act a certain way. It'll help with oversteer, understeer, and all this stuff. Not going to even touch it this year. Right now it's sitting neutral. It's going to stay neutral.
So
it's just going to be a more rigid bar.
You know, we had a lot of trouble with your car bouncing real bad.
I was going to get into that.
I think that might be spring rate related.
Right. Well, that's just it too. Like you think, I want the most rigid suspension. Not the case. Because like
actually, I think you want the softest suspension you can get away with.
Yes.
I think that's true also.
Yep. So like we tried that in Sioux Falls last year, and I think it's 32-way adjustable, so I can go when I go as soft as it'll let me. It's very comfortable on the street. These are track coilovers from Megan, and if I go soft as possible, they're stiff, but I can drive it on the street. I don't get my seat slammed into my ass when I'm driving,
which is how the Omni feels.
Right.
It's miserable.
So while we were in Sioux Falls, one time. Like I would always go, 1 to 8 clicks. Like when you turn the knob on top of the strut.
So are yours single or double adjustable?
I think they're single.
So that's most likely just doing rrebound, which is now getting into some more crazy shit I don't really understand.
Yeah, so without going all the way down that road, minus 32 clicks. So I can go 1 to 8 is as stiff as possible. So 1 is obviously the stiffest. 8 would be the stiffest they would recommend for track, or the softest they would recommend for track. And then I don't even bother with anything else in the middle. 32 is what I drive on the street. So I will go. We were in Sioux Falls, and I went all the way to 1, thinking, let's see how this feels on a rigid setup. That parking lot was so bumpy. The whole time I was just bouncing the whole way through the course. I was like 4 seconds slower because my car just bounced.
So in Sioux Falls, one of the guys who regularly takes FTD in what is essentially a street or an STR prepared.
You're throwing a lot of acronyms around. FTD.
FTD is fastest time of the day.
Thank you.
And STR is a street touring class in the SCCA race, or in SCCA solo. This car is basically fully prepared for STR, except because they're a NASA class, he runs Hoosier, which is not legal in ST classes because ST is 200 treadwear or higher. So, but other than that, his car is an ST prepared car, and he has what's a suspension by a company called Fat Cat Motorsports.
Okay,
and his car is really surprisingly soft. And when you ride with him, his car like that's a really bumpy parking lot.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
It's a terrible parking lot in regards to smoothness. His car just soaks that up, and my car bounces pretty bad. Not as bad as your car did, but my car bounces pretty bad. And you have to be mindful of that when you're going over a big crack. Like when I do my course walk, I have to watch for those things and I have to think, I need to either not, I can't be on the brake when I hit this or my car will be really upset about it.
Right.
He doesn't have to think about those things.
Well, that kind of goes into if you're really rigid through a corner and all of your tires are say you have a really smooth, wide corner, like a bank turn, and you have really stiff suspension, so all of your weight is on all of your tires all the way through the corner, you can go really fast. If you're taking a corner that's not so smooth, and I'm trying to think how I want to describe this. Basically, if you're going to be bumping through that corner, you're going to want softer suspension so that it keeps your tires on the ground. So then, if you have softer suspension, you're going to be slower coming out, like when you get on the throttle again, but you can be faster going in through the corner, is the way I understand it, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. So just kind of things you can.
This is stuff that's really even above
really
our
mess
heads,
with it.
And we're still working on. So
we don't fully understand this at all.
At the risk of losing listeners, I am going to plug somebody else's podcast because there's a podcast called The Slip Angle Show. You can find them on iTunes. We've actually kind of become friends with one of their main guys.
Yep.
Hey, Adam, not Adam Nielsen.
Yeah, Adam. His name is Adam. If you are interested in trying to figure out how to tune your rebound and compression, the settings that you can get on your coilover setups. They have an interview with a guy whose name is Leigh Grimes, and he is the motorsports director for Coney, North America. And the dude has probably forgotten more about suspension setup than we'll ever know. And he's on their podcast. It's been quite a while ago, so you're going to have to flip through quite a few of them to find it. But go and listen to it. I've literally listened to it 3 or 4 times.
Say his name one more time.
Leigh Grimes.
Leigh Grimes. Okay.
He also did an interview with the Grassroots Motorsports podcast, and I've listened to both of those multiple times, just trying to like get this etched into my brain, because he talks about, you know, oh, you're understeering into the entry of the corner. You need more compression on this end of the car and rebound on that end of the car, and it's just like,
okay, sure, let's go with that.
There is a lot to learn when it comes to that
so
type
that
of stuff.
guy's a genius, and those 2 podcasts do really good at talking to him. And so go listen to the Slip Angle Show's interview with him, and while you're there, subscribe to them and listen to the rest of them, because I really enjoy them.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're super into technical, nerdy racing stuff, this is not the right podcast for that.
But
those guys are awesome, though.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah.
They've been doing this a lot longer than we have, and they're really fun to listen to.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're pretty cool. They've been cool to us so far when we've reached out to them. So awesome.
I guess we could talk about tires, since we kind of beat.
I got a
suspension
couple
to
things
death.
about tires.
Okay. For me, the long and the short of it is run the softest tire that class will allow.
Yeah, within reason. So, like Josh Fettis, who was on the podcast now 2 weeks ago, or now 3 weeks ago when this one comes out, he's right now trying to figure out what tire he wants to run this year. So they race pretty much all of their races at the same parking lot, and that lot is notorious for being really hard on tires.
Yeah,
Josh essentially, it's asphalt.
There you go.
It's really, really rough asphalt. Even on top of that, even for asphalt, it's gnarly. And Josh basically has the budget to buy a set of tires a year. So obviously, if you want to buy the fastest street tire that money can buy, you go out and you buy the RE71R. It's the fastest street tire that you can buy.
That's a Bridgestone tire.
Yeah, and almost no one will argue with that tire being silly quick. But
What's a treadwear on that?
they're all 200s.
Okay. Yeah, because most of the stuff
Any street tire we ever talk about will most likely be 200.
Yep.
But it wears. I was going to look into this. Treadwear rating is very subjective.
Yes.
And it can change. Just because all of these tires are rated at 200 doesn't mean that they last the same amount of time.
No.
So the RE71R will wear out very, very quickly. And so Josh has been in the struggle of trying to find the tire that is the fastest tire that he can buy that will make it to the end of the season.
And for me, last year, it was unanimous. It was Hankook, the RS3s.
The RS3 seems like a really good one. A lot of people really like the Star Spec.
Yep.
Although I think the RS3 is faster than the Star Spec.
Star Spec's at Dunlop.
Right.
Right. So I think the RS3 is faster than the Star Spec, but the Star Spec's been a really popular tire for a lot of people, and I think the Star Spec is a longer lasting tire than the RS3 even.
Okay. Yeah, I think the RS3s were the cheapest. So for me, it was most people were running them. They were getting really good results. They were still the cheapest. So for me, it was a no-brainer. It was the best value.
I think you can buy a set of RS3s and put decent amount of miles on your car throughout the summer and race a decent number of events and still make it to the end of the year.
I will completely vouch for that. I had RS3s in May last year. I don't know how many events I did. Probably one every other week for 12 weeks. No, even longer than that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
maybe 10 events.
Here you go. Bill, on his 12 STI, ran RS3s. He put them on for one lap because you have to put new tires on for one lap.
Yeah, one lap only allows you to have the 4 tires that are on your car and
one spare if it's
one spare of each size.
Correct.
You can have 2 sizes. So
Yep.
if you run a staggered fitment, you can have one of each size. And essentially that's for punctures, not for wear out.
Right.
And then
So hold on. So he ran that tire all the way through one lap, and then he ran it the rest of the season. So he ran a few more track days on it. He doesn't do a lot of autocross, but let's say he ran 3 more track days that year. That's a lot of wear. I mean, that's a lot of miles.
They double drove that car on one lap.
Yep. So they did 2 sets of runs.
you guys want to explain what one lap is?
One Lap of America is a track event where it's a week long ish, couple of days.
Yeah, 9 days or something.
And you start out at point A and you drive to a racetrack and you do a race, and then the next day you have another race at another racetrack, and they're usually 400 to 600 miles of driving between racetracks, and you got to drive there, sleep, or
not sleep.
pretend like you're
caffeine it up.
sleeping.
The deal with one lap is it's
Brutal.
It's brutal, and it's reminiscent of the cannonball runs across the United States because Brock Yates, we're getting really off topic, but he did the original cannonball, or one of the original ones. There were several of them.
Yeah, he wrote a book about it.
Yeah, and then his son now runs One Lap of America, so I don't know if his son started that or Brock started it. I'm not really sure.
It's called Brock Yates' One Lap of America, and he did originally start it when Cannonball got to the point where they couldn't run it without everybody getting thrown in jail.
Right, so you have to take into account the fact that these guys set up this race, so there's going to be some cannonballing from point A to point B. So you may see some triple-digit speed. I mean, you don't have to, but don't plan on sleeping the whole week. I mean, that's legitimately.
But essentially, that is a week-long brutal torture test on tires.
Yeah.
And he made it through all of that, and Bill's not nice to his car when he's not one-lapping.
Right. I think he ran that set of tires the whole season. When he got back, I said, "Oh, did you wear the tires out?" He said, "No, that should be fine."
Which set was he running?
RS3s.
Yep.
245, 4018s, I think is what he was running.
Yeah, and I ran those last year too, and I went all season, all year. I drove to Minneapolis a couple times. Yeah, to and from Minneapolis and a couple other events. Sioux Falls a handful of times. There's hardly any wear on them. I'm shocked at how little wear they have.
It's pretty impressive. It's a pretty impressive tire for the money.
Yep.
I mean, really. It does a lot of
and
all
they
around.
They are like the cheapest 200 treadwear too, aren't they?
Yeah, and
Damn
a 17, a 245 17 is like 160 or something like that.
That's not an expensive 17.
No, not at all.
Not for
But the thing you got to keep in mind with these extreme performance summer tires is that although they do all right in the rain, they are not as good in the rain as other tires, and they will not work in the cold.
Right.
No, yeah. I mean, they say right on them, don't run them below like 40 degrees.
Yep.
I had a set of RE11s on my Audi, and I got into it late into the season and hadn't gotten a different set of tires on there, and I was like, how bad can this actually be? They're just saying this. No, they're serious. It is fucking
Turn into rocks.
Don't do it.
Actually, when I was looking at buying that Fiesta ST, it comes with 200s or something like that, and they say right in the brochure, do not drive this car with the tires it comes with below 40 degrees.
The Michelin Pilot Super Sports that come on Corvettes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Supposedly, Carl Chevrolet here in town had to build a building where all these people that buy their Corvettes and Camaros can store their cars inside during the winter because those tires freezing, they'll turn into rocks.
Well, that kind of brings up like we're starting to go to like slicks because I'm running. I want to run A7s this year. At least I intend to. And then like even in that 6-page document where it talks about way to take care of it and stuff. Never, under any circumstances, let them freeze.
Yeah, mine have been frozen, but mine are all takeoffs, so they're already shot anyway.
Right. So yeah, if you want your tires to last at all, don't let them sit in the sun. Don't let them just sit on your car. Like especially when we're talking soft tires, we're talking like 40 treadwear. We're talking slicks. Yeah. Like so they're saying. I think I did have something pulled up for this, but I can't find it now. But it says if you're going to let them sit outside in the sun all day for like weeks.
They're done.
You're going to ruin them. If you're going to let them sit on your car, like bolted to your car with your car sitting on it with weight on it, you will flat spot them. Then they're worthless. And then if you run them if they're 32 degrees out, they're junk. So when we're talking slicks, don't let them freeze. They're like gremlins or mogwais. They're like mogwais. You don't feed them after midnight.
What's a mogwai?
That's the Furby looking thing before they're gremlins.
There was a thing before gremlins?
That's what they are.
They're
gremlins.
they're
gremlins
mogwais.
is what they turn into if you feed them after midnight or whatever.
Oh, I see. I didn't watch that movie.
Yeah, so racing slicks.
I just know about gremlins.
Come on, bro.
I know about them.
You should.
I just don't know what a mogwai is.
Yeah, so racing slicks are like mogwais.
I know what an Ewok is. Jeez.
No, that's totally different.
What's that?
Damn it,
Robbie.
But yeah, so racing slicks, you need to take care of them. Like, take them in during the winter. Put them in your spare bedroom.
Pretend it's a dog.
Yeah, don't let them freeze.
Yeah.
Don't let it be outside when it's cold.
Mine are all takeoffs that I got for free. So
who cares?
they've been stored in my storage unit. They're already ran through all their heat cycles. They're still better than
200 treadwear.
Well, I think the argument can be made that they're not. But,
Okay.
A new set of 200s.
But they were free, and they fit on my rims.
Go with
So whatever.
No, I can't argue that. I mean, really, there's not a whole lot more to say about tires. Like I mean, you could start getting into like tire pressures, and even that, it's just they recommend
That's
you to
testing.
Yeah,
100%
that's trial and error.
testing. Trial and
like
error.
you follow your recommended tire pressures. you figure it out from there. What works, what's wearing, like how much sidewall you're destroying if you're too soft.
So here's another podcast or someone else's podcast shout out, so you can go and listen to somebody else who knows this stuff a hell of a lot better than
You
we
are a
do.
terrible promotion man. You know that?
I don't care.
Please stop listening to this podcast and listen to
No,
somebody else.
Listen to ours, but these guys are real good. Grassroots Motorsports had they do a tire test every single year with the new 200 treadwears, and on one of their podcasts they talk with Andy Hollis, who is one of the most successful solo SCCA guys ever. He's the one who does their tire test, and he talks about the tire test on one of the podcasts. And he talks about, you know, how they always talk about you're supposed to check your tire temperatures and determine pressures using that. Mm-hmm. He actually says that with a radial tire, that's not as effective. And what they do is they set up a skid pad, which is just a circle, like that's 50 to 75 foot diameter circle, and just go around it 5 times or whatever in both directions and time yourself.
Okay.
And then change tire pressures and just keep doing that until you don't get any faster. And that's the tire pressure you should run with radials, because you don't necessarily, or I guess the tire temperature thing is not as good of a way of determining whether or not you have the right pressures on a radial as it was on a bias ply, which is where that method came
right.
about.
And then
interesting.
Then since we don't have a skid pad, how do you
trying to find one or a place we can do it?
I run, again, like I don't want to take out all the air in my tires, then have to drive home with really soft tires. So last year when I was running 200s, I think I brought it down to like 28 PSI, maybe 30. But anyways, we were able to, you taught me how to determine it with a paint stick and the sidewall.
Rollover.
Yeah, describe that to us. And maybe you can't do it without a picture.
It's a little hard to do without a picture, but a lot of people they take a ink or a
paint marker,
and you mark a little white spot on maybe a couple places on the edge of your tire, and you want a little bit of rollover, but you don't want too much. If you're scrubbing most of that paint off, you want it 2 or 3 inches long or wide down the sidewall.
Yep. So start at the tread and come down the sidewall.
Start at the tread and come down towards the rim.
Yep.
And if you're rubbing a bunch of that off, you don't have enough air pressure because you're rolling that tire over, because that air pressure helps keep that tire rigid. And but I think you still want a little bit of scrub, but not too much. And that figuring out how much is kind of, again, trial and error, but it's a good way to figure out, oh man, I am really rolling over here.
Yeah.
And the RS3s kind of have a line that goes.
A lot of them have.
Yeah, they have
line.
they have the tread ends, and then there's a line. And for me, at like 28 to 30 psi, I hit that line, and that seemed to be just where I wanted it. And that's what worked for me. And can I prove that I was faster that way? No, but
this is very driver dependent. If you like a car that reacts this way, you got to decide what you like, and then try and figure out how to make your car run that way.
The other disclaimer I'd put on this is that if you're not really serious at racing, and maybe you haven't even done any racing, just get out there. Like, don't get hung up in your garage about running the wrong tires or having the wrong alignment set up. What I would tell you to do is just get out there, do some racing. As you kind of get more acclimated with your car, then you can kind of start tweaking stuff. But if you don't have the basics down, you aren't doing, you're not autocrossing on a regular basis, trying to change your tires and screwing with your alignment and all that stuff is probably not going to do you any good. You just need to get some seat time.
Absolutely. And then
the fastest or the best way to make yourself faster is to just get out there and drive, because no matter what you do with all this setup in this car, probably the thing that's slowing you down the most is you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I would still claim that myself, having done a few years of autocross, and I spend a lot of time in my racing simulator at home, and I guarantee you that all of this setup work that I'm trying to figure out on my car, none of that matters compared to how much time I could shave off just by being a better driver.
Yeah, if you think you're at your limit as far as you can, this is all the better I can do, or this is the best that I can do, trust me, you're not Lewis Hamilton. You need to take a step back and realize that there's a lot for you to learn. Maybe go to a track day where there's instructors there.
There's driving schools.
Schools. They have autocross driving schools. They have track day driving schools.
PDX, isn't that kind of like a...
PDX is...
Kind of. Depends on the event.
Michael's done one. How was that?
It was really cool. I got a guy that he's done, I don't know, 15 years of club racing at some level. So he was a really good instructor. And then I got Yo from JB Autosport, and he was screaming at me the entire time. He's just like, you need to go faster,
But
faster,
you
faster,
know
faster.
Yo semi well.
Right. So when he got in the car, he knew that other instructor didn't know me.
He knew how to react to you because he knows you personally.
Right. So he just started screaming at me that I wasn't driving fast enough. So, but it was really, really good because he knew I would listen to him, and he knew that the car wasn't at its limit. And he's like, you need to forget about what he told you to get you started for the day, and you need to fucking hammer on this shit, and let's do some real racing. So It was really good. He really helped me a lot.
One of the things I almost did what's called the Evolution Pro Driving School, which is something the SCCA does for solo autocross racing. And it's put on by national champions, and I'm sure they're incredibly knowledgeable, but it was like hundreds of dollars, and I decided that it was like it was almost 10 autocrosses, and I decided that at my level I can probably learn more by just doing 10 autocrosses than I'm gonna get out of them for the budget I'm at.
Right, and not to knock that, but yeah, that's a hell of a deal. For like a couple $100 for a pro driver to work with you is a hell of a deal.
I would love to. I'm not saying don't do it. Yeah. I want to do one, but I just didn't have the budget at that point, and I decided that money could be better spent just driving 10 events rather than one event with an instructor.
Absolutely. So like, if you can get like that type of driving school, that's going to be your cheapest, or like a PDX, and then like if you go to an actual driving school, you're talking $3,000, $5,000,
several $1,000.
Skip Barber,
Skip Barber's like $5,000.
Crazy.
I think it's $4,500.
Yeah, the thing to look out for. Iowa Region used to do it, and I hope they do it, because if they do it again, I will go. Even though I've gone several times before, I've been autocrossing for 6 years. They will have an instructional autocross day, and it just depends on your region. They're not required to do it. It's just something that your region may decide that they want to do, and I really hope that Iowa Region does it again. Because you'll get in the car.
I've done that in a while, because I would have gone to
couple years probably. I went to 2. It really helped because you can read all you want, you can read forums, you can watch videos, you can do all that. But all of a sudden,
I bought a book about autocross, racing.
Yep,
all of a sudden,
I own the Skip Barber textbook.
The guy sitting next to you in the car, like, "Do you know what you're doing with your hands?" And you're like, "I think I'm holding them in the right spot." Like, no, your hands are all over the fucking place. Like, you need to put your hands at 9 and 3 and leave them there.
See, my car, I can't do that.
Well, I'm just saying that I'm sure all of us are doing things that we know that we shouldn't be doing. It's just there's 1,000 things to think about.
One of the things I'm really bad at is looking far enough ahead.
Oh, I'm terrible at that.
Yeah.
I look at what's right in front of me, and when you watch, I love course working because then I get to watch some of these really fast guys. Their heads are on swivels. They're all over the place. I'm just looking straight ahead, and I am so bad at looking farther ahead than I am, and I need to look farther ahead.
Yep, and I've noticed that like when I do in the simulator too.
Those are things
that's one of those
you.
things I've really noticed, like driving the simulator, because you're on a real, like, quote unquote real track, and like you can blow past a corner and not realize it. Like in autocross, you're pretty safe. Like if you screw up, you slide through a cone, whatever.
See, I think my simulator racing is part of the reason I'm not very good at looking way farther ahead, because you can't turn your head and look out your side window on the simulator. You're stuck with what's on your screen, and that's it.
Well, to me, I noticed that I was watching the road directly in front of my hood, so I would come up on a turn and just right into the wall because I'm not paying attention that I should have turned way earlier or slowed down or whatever. So that was one of the things that I really took away from driving a simulator, is that I was able to teach myself that. And I mean, that's one of those things you could put a guard up. And so you're only looking above. It's like when you're teaching yourself how to type. You put the thing above your keyboard and you have to learn. You put a blind spot in front of the hood of your car on the screen. You have to look forward. And I realize it sounds really stupid, but I did that. That's how I've broken my habit of that. I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm not saying I even do it correctly. It's one of those things I'm still learning.
The reason I don't have a visor on my helmet that I use when I go autocrossing is because that was the same helmet that I used when I junior drag raced, and my parents put a strip of duct tape on the top and the bottom so that I didn't have as much view, because I would always cut really terrible lights because I'm fucking ADD, and I was like off and looking at everything else, like, oh look, there's 15 people on the stands tonight.
There's a bird.
That's
Look at that. That's
interesting.
impressive.
And I wasn't looking at, oh shit, green light, let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, so my parents tried to narrow my view so that I could focus on what I needed to focus on, because I was really bad at doing
That's
that.
hilarious.
So we can kind of wrap this up. There was a couple of things you wanted to talk about. We talked about You can do all the suspension, replacement. You replace all these things, but if you have soft, worn-out bushings, it doesn't mean anything. You're just going to be rolling all over.
Your camber's changing. Your toe is changing as you, especially with stickier tires, as you roll into in and out of corners. Those bushings are flexing and moving in ways that you did not account for when you made that alignment. So when you make all these changes on your cars, put the better stuff in there.
Yeah, polyurethane or Delrend is the other one. I've seen people put aluminum bushings in, but I don't know about that.
Again, I think it depends on where it is, because I think it does too. Don's 350Z, the rear subframe bushing is from the factory is a hydraulic filled bushing.
Oh, bizarre!
And it ruptures.
Oh yeah,
and it makes this terrible clunking noise. And the standard fix is to throw a solid aluminum bushing in there because it doesn't really affect the ride of the car, and you're done with it.
Yep.
The problem is, this is why the SCCA has some really stupid rules. Solid bushings like that, automatically put them in prepared.
Huh.
Game over. That's the standard modifying practice for that car. But if you take it autocrossing and you've got that in there and you want to be serious about it, your car's probably not qualified in the class it should be in, just because you made that one
little modification
that's considered normal.
Let's not go down that road with SCCA classing today. Let's move past it. Robbie, what do we got for news?
Let's go news. The first thing we're talking about is the Aston Martin AMG merger update. Where are we going to talk about for that?
So they're not merged, but
not
AMG
merged.
is going to make some engines for Aston Martin. But last week, we had talked about the DB11 not having an AMG motor, and we were
they have their own motor.
Yeah, so they've made their own motor, but the Vantage is going to have an AMG motor.
So then AMG is just giving them their V8s.
Yeah, they're giving them that 4-liter.
Aston Martin is going to continue making their own V12s.
Which is now twin-turboed.
I think, yes, maybe.
Which is the first twin-turboed V8 that Aston Martin...
V12.
I said V8, didn't I? V12.
Yeah.
This is the first turboed Aston Martin.
Yeah, they made some supercharged ones.
Yep.
But not turboed.
Nope.
So they're going to put the 4-liter AMG V8, which is in several other things, including, I think, like the AMG GT. I think that's the 4-liter V8.
Yeah.
That little 2-seater. So that's a good motor. The interesting thing about that is I think that AMG, this is the only way you can get a manual AMG now.
I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I don't... I kind of wish they'd... I'd kind of rather them make their own motors.
Yeah, but they didn't make the other one. They didn't make the 3.9 Jaguar.
Yeah, that's right.
Aren't they the same thing?
It was a Ford motor. Not anymore. Aston Martin's its own company. Jaguar is owned by Tata, which sounds inappropriate, and Ford has nothing to do with any of it anymore.
Well, so I suppose that this is what Aston Martin has to do to continue existing.
Yeah, it's probably...
And just like we've talked about with, like when we talked about Morgan using hybrid and electric drivetrains, if that's what you have to do to exist, then I guess that's what you have to do to exist.
Yeah.
Because I assume that if they take an AMG motor and they put it in their car, but they don't change anything on it, then does that car need to go through EPA testing?
Maybe not.
Or does it qualify here in America because Mercedes has already done it?
Yeah, it might qualify. If you put the same tune on it, it'd be hard to argue.
So that would
the tune's certified.
An ass load of money.
Yeah. And time. And screwing around.
Yeah.
Potential screwing
around.
So
that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. I like that motor, personally.
It's probably a great motor. I don't know. I've never driven one.
Nope. I have no idea.
So I'm fine with it, but we just wanted to correct that we were mistaken.
Yeah, we were a little
not
confused
because
we had mentioned about them. We thought we were using AMGs, and now they're not. So it turns out they are, just not
just some of the time. And apparently we don't know exactly which ones. But anyway, what's next?
Up next, we have the Tesla Model 3, which is, we talked about this a little bit.
It's so ugly.
It's so weird to me because people lined up like they were buying a fucking iPhone.
So what kind of a moron?
Yeah.
You could go online. Trust me, because I went online to see if you could make a reservation for the car. And all you have to do is put your name and your address in and then enter your credit card, and you've got one reserved.
What I love is that they are getting in line to pay money to get in line for a car that might come out in 2 years.
Right.
Why? And they were doing it before the car was out.
They've had 150,000 people who have said, "I want one of these." So
it's even more than that.
That was probably
as of the reveal
number. Yeah.
As of April 2nd, 198,000 people have put down payments down already.
And
which makes it even crazier, last year they only sold 116,000 electric cars in the entire country.
Yeah, so when are you going to
Electric
get
cars
this
or
car?
Teslas?
Plug-in cars.
So not even Teslas, because that would qualify as the Leaf.
Yeah.
And the
Yes,
Bolt.
The Bolt's not out.
In
The Bolt's not out?
2015,
Okay.
they only sold 116,000 electric cars in the United States.
Well, I know that years ago, Obama said that he had a goal of making of selling 1 million electric cars in the United States by the end of 2015. And I think they either were very close to it or just barely broke that globally.
Right.
Yeah. So when are you going to get this car that you've reserved
Nobody knows.
that you don't know when
Maybe.
it's coming out?
I saw a news article. Tesla's worried they're going to be able to produce them fast enough.
I should
now.
say so.
Elon Musk says he's fairly confident that the first Model 3s will be delivered in 2017. So, like, you might get one in December 2017 if you're lucky.
So basically,
If you were
2
at the
years
front of
from
the
now.
list,
Yeah.
if you were number one,
Right.
So and I'll bet you it's not even that because
No.
there's preferential treatment. Don't tell me there is.
right. How many did you buy a Model S and a Model X? Yes, sir. You go straight to the front.
Is
of
your
the
name
list.
Jay Leno?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's one of those weird things. Like, again, if it is first come, first serve, why would you wait in line and not just go online and reserve it? And then,
Because it's the thrill of it.
Well, then there's-
I got to wait in line 48 hours for my car. It's
48 hours for a car I'm not going to see for 48 months.
Well, yeah,
Maybe.
that's the thing too.
Again, maybe.
They're not even. There are people on here saying that they think they're going to be able to. They're actually going to follow through and buy it. They're not 100%.
No, did you know about that? So if you reserve one, you can just
Back out?
renege on the whole thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, then I'm going to reserve one too.
Stupid.
Fuck it.
You still got to give them $1,000.
Ah, damn it.
But yeah, you don't have to take delivery of it. Which what a
So I
administrative
get my
nightmare.
$1,000 back?
Yeah, I think so.
I doubt it.
No, you get your money
Do ya?
back. You may not. Maybe you have like a 10% penalty, but you
Stupid.
get your money back.
Well, it's just weird. It's weird. Like, you don't know anything about this car. Like, you have this might be what it looks like. This might
Do
be.
they
the
even
specs.
have a working model at this point?
Yeah, they were. Jalopnik had a video where they were riding in one.
And is that technically the concept?
No, this is the car.
That it is production. They're not
That's
gonna
my
change?
understanding.
Okay.
I mean,
Is it being
who
built-
knows? It's not coming out for another 2
Is it
years.
supposed
so
to
they
get
could change
built at the
something.
Gigafactory?
I think yes.
Which is
well,
not
the Gigafactory.
operational.
I think is supposed to make the battery part of it.
And it's not operational.
I don't
yet.
think they've even broken ground on it.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Could be wrong on that, but it's nowhere near being what I would call a factory.
So you and I work construction, and
Yes.
I understand timetables.
Yes.
Of huge construction projects like that. Not going to happen.
Never, no way.
No, they might have the building done in 2 years.
But it's not going to be
It's not going
operational.
to be done. Yeah,
It's going to be empty, but it'll be a building.
it'll be a building.
Might have some lighting in it.
Yeah, you could use the bathroom if you want. That's about all you can do in there.
Maybe.
Right.
I don't know. Plumbers are slow. They're the worst.
No comment.
So that was it. Like, they advertised this as being the $35,000 electric car for everybody. But like, if that follows the same suit as the rest of the Teslas, there's no way any of them are gonna sell for that. Because like a good example was the base Model S was $70,000. Morgan Stanley Morgan Stanley did an article and said the average sale price of a Model S was $105,000 in 2014.
How could that be the average? That's
The
outrageous.
average. So like,
That makes me a little more mad because there's 3 or 4 of them in names, and I didn't realize they were that
Yeah, no
freaking
kidding.
expensive.
yeah. So you're
$105,000.
the base model that nobody buys is $70,000.
Well, isn't that like the 65? Or have you ever seen a 60 or a 65? I don't think I
I
have.
think the lowest I've ever seen is an 85.
yeah.
Because
And
they
you
make an 85 and a 90 right now.
Yeah.
And they've,
Well, then there's the P and the D.
well, no, so there's
You can read into that all you want to, but
P is all of them, and D is dual. So, like, if you can buy a P90D
yeah.
and a P85D, and the D is dual motor, so it's all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And then it has ludicrous mode.
Ludicrous mode. Is that only on the 90 or the 85 though?
I think it's on the
Could you get it on,
the
like, a
85
65?
now, but I think it's only on the 85 and the 90. And again, this is me not knowing a
We
goddamn
don't know
thing
anything about
Teslas
what we are
'cause I
talking
don't
about.
care.
Yeah.
Robbie's the only one that does any research.
But I can tell you
And even
that
then,
the
it turned out I
Model
did the
X
wrong one.
is the fastest SUV you can buy.
Yeah, so it's just weird to me.
Why?
And then,
There's
yes.
actually I think I sent this to you guys on the message
Yeah,
but
our
there was a
messenger chat thing.
video. There was a video of a Model X racing a car.
yeah.
I don't remember which car it was, but that Model X was towing that same car and it beat it. What car was it? It was something that was
have no idea.
mildly quick.
Well,
I don't remember what it was, but the Model X was faster than the car, and it was towing another one of those cars.
my question just becomes why, though? Why?
Why what?
Why any of that?
Why have a fast
Why
SUV?
have a fast SUV?
Why not?
What are you gonna do with it?
Go fast.
You gonna tow stuff down the drag strip?
Well, okay, so
It's got gull wing doors, for God's sakes, that don't work apparently.
Gold wing doors is just a bad idea in general.
I think it's so stupid. And then like they want to show them off, so they open the front doors and then the rear doors come up, and you're like, that looks so stupid. Why didn't you put different? Why are the back doors the gull wing? Why are any of the doors like that?
Because didn't they have to get really, really creative to make it so you could open them up in a standard parking spot?
Yeah, they hinge like
Twice?
yeah, they've got 2 hinges in them.
Weird.
I just think I hate the Model X. I think it's so stupid. I'm not at all opposed to the Model S. There's a lot that I like about it. I think it's good looking. It's an interesting concept. I'm not mad about it. I think the X was an engineering exercise that went completely wrong.
I think the 3 is possibly the ugliest car that anybody's trying to make right now. I hate the front end of that car.
It looks
like
like
them at all.
it looks like they designed it and it was supposed to have a grill, and then somebody just covered it up.
Well, because if you close it up like that, I'll bet it has a lower coefficient of drag.
Oh, I'm sure, but that doesn't mean you have to make a spot where it would go. Have you looked at the front? It's got
I
a
know.
lip where it should
Yeah,
be.
it's just bad.
And it's not there. They could have smoothed that out, and I think it would have looked a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. It's not good. I don't like it.
Okay.
Damn it, Elon Musk.
We're moving on from
Yeah, we're
those
just going to get
stupid
more
cars.
and more mad.
All right.
Give me something good,
NASCAR.
NASCAR!
This is a good
This
story.
makes me
Derek-
so happy.
NASCAR driver Derek White faces 7 charges in the biggest tobacco smuggling bust in North America.
So I've never heard of Derek White in my life,
Quick.
but in the spirit of NASCAR, this guy's got to figure it out.
Yep. So, quick little background on him. Last year, he's made 22 career starts in the Xfinity Series, which is the
The feeder,
yep. And then he also did 6 races in the Camping World Truck Series.
which is also a feeder.
Yeah. So he's not like when they say NASCAR, this isn't one of your like Jeff Gordons.
I
This
think
is,
that's something that non-NASCAR fans, because I didn't even really understand that until recently. There's like 8 different series that fall under the NASCAR umbrella.
I realized that this year when I was looking into the Iowa Speedway, and they're like, "Yeah, we have NASCAR coming." I was like, "No, you don't. You have the NASCAR Xfinity Series. It's not the same.
Nah, it is the same.
Whatever."
But it's not.
It's not.
But it
not.
is this.
But anyways, the crazy thing about this was 60 people were arrested in this.
God,
Yeah.
it's so awesome.
This is ridiculous.
So it's the biggest drug smuggling. They were smuggling. God, how much was it?
Well, there's
It's 200. It's 2,294 tons of tobacco.
Yeah. So
what
they
I'm
were.
really confused by is why are you smuggling a legal thing?
No, it's not legal. Or it's arguable.
Tobacco is legal.
He's smuggling.
I can go down to
Listen,
Hy-Vee and
here-
buy tobacco.
Here's why. He was smuggling tobacco from, I think it was the United States, into Canada and getting past all the taxes of bringing tobacco into the country. So it has cost the Canadian government technically has lost $530 million in taxes.
Damn.
So like if you think about it,
Jesus.
That's a lot.
$500 million.
yes. So
Holy cow.
they brought in $530 million worth of tax or even more tax-free tobacco. Which the bigger issue was it fed into other crimes.
He bought. So I have a list of things that he bought with this money, Adam. If you would like to know what that
Yeah,
list
'cause
is.
there's cocaine and stuff for sure.
Yeah. So
yeah.
there was cocaine, of course.
Lots of it?
1,800 pounds was seized.
Yeah.
Just a bit of cocaine for a bit of a weekend getaway.
It's a Miami Vice getaway right there.
Meth.
Oh,
If you choose to partake.
46 pounds of meth.
46 pounds of meth.
Jesus, you don't need a lot of meth to get high.
No,
From
46 pounds is a
Not that I
lot.
would know because I've never been anywhere close to this, but my understanding is it doesn't take a lot.
Okay, so the next one, I don't know if I've ever heard of this. So let me try to pronounce it. It's fentanyl.
Fentanyl.
I don't know if
Yeah.
What is it?
Fentanyl is a painkiller. They actually, Katie has had fentanyl a couple of times when she's had her pancreatitis flare-ups, and we've been in the hospital.
They gave her fentanyl.
It's a narcotic. Just like you can take a lot of morphine to get high.
Yeah.
It's a narcotic.
Yeah.
Do we know how much fentanyl he had?
No, I don't know that one.
He had all the fentanyl.
I've-
And then he had, of course, because what doesn't go with cocaine and fentanyl and
X.
meth? No, marijuana.
Yeah, and that was only
Some fun.
just
we
a
need
bit of
some
marijuana.
party
Just a bit.
drugs.
Well,
35
Party
pounds.
drugs up in
Yeah,
here.
35 pounds of marijuana. They're fucking amateurs.
Yeah.
They're gonna be
35
shit.
pounds.
what they see is $3 million in
I
American.
vacuumed up more than that out of a used car in my dealership days.
Yeah, so they seized $3 million in American currency and 1.5 million in Canadian.
And then I guess he was doing some European good old fashioned money laundering as well.
Oh, of course. Yeah, the weird thing was though, his charges don't make any. Like, I mean, they make sense.
So the question that I had, and nobody didn't seem to make it very clear, is what did he actually do?
Here's where it gets.
Yeah,
kind
how
of,
does he a
he's
part of
involved.
this?
He's been charged with 3 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud against the government, 3 counts of fraud against the government, and 1 count of profiteering as a criminal organization. So is he like? Are they saying he's the head of this? Is that what they're saying?
Well, you think so?
Well,
I read into that as
it's-
maybe he was just one of the.
sounds to me like he's the fall guy.
He might have been, yeah, or at least the guy that was laundering the money, because that kind of sounds like money laundering charges to me, like
Yeah.
trying to make stuff disappear. Because was conspiracy to what again?
Conspiracy to commit fraud against government and
Committing
profiteering.
fraud and profiteering.
Fraud against the government would be money laundering.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if there's a money
It's
laundering
just-
charge. It doesn't sound like he did much, but of course, since he's associated
That's
with
the weird
NASCAR.
thing. They had 700 law enforcement do 70 different searches in the same time period.
Did you see that
and took down 60 people?
They've
So,
been
I mean,
working on this since 2014.
Yep.
How?
Oh my god.
How much money have they spent on trying to catch this guy that we've all known where he is?
Right. Yeah. So it's just weird. And then it's at the same time it's almost
It's awesome.
It's almost nostalgic.
It's nostalgic because
This is
that's
NASCAR at its
NASCAR.
heart.
He's
Yeah.
this is in his blood.
Yes, because
this runs
yeah.
through his veins.
Yeah, like-
he doesn't know any differently.
So his great granddaddy was running Shine.
Yep.
the
And
South.
if you don't know the history of
NASCAR.
NASCAR, it was started by moonshiners that hopped up their cars to run away from the cops, and they're like, "Oh, we should race these."
they got bored on the weekend. They're
So
like,
that's just how
we're
NASCAR
not
started.
smuggling any moonshine right now, so maybe we should have a light race, possibly. And that's how NASCAR started.
So I think next
Because
year,
as soon as there were 2 cars, people started racing.
Yeah.
That's
next year they're probably going to have like a special Derek White Day, and it's going to
God, I
be
hope
it's going to
so.
be all
In-
it's going to be a
in
national holiday
commemorating Derek White.
talking about how great he is compared to like the history of NASCAR and
he should get his own little corner in the NASCAR museum.
the NASCAR
that
Hall of
absolutely
Fame for all.
exists.
Yeah, there should be like the
Or this
drivers
is-
on one side and then like
And
the,
then,
the
like,
smugglers on the other
This
side.
is the Derek White start finish straight here.
And it's a white line.
Represents all the cocaine that he moved
Yeah.
back in 2015.
Got a big razor blade.
Yeah, so I mean,
sculpture at the end of it or something.
yeah, the more you look into it, the more it has nothing to do with NASCAR or anything. It's
Makes
just the
me
fact that
so-
it's like this is so like par for the course for NASCAR.
So I think that we should let him off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Obama, we're looking at you. We need a pardon.
It's not
for
his
Derek.
fault. It's in his
No,
blood.
it's not his fault.
He can't be held
It's
responsible.
part of the sport, and if we've decided we're going to accept NASCAR as our national racing bullshit, whatever, then
you know
we
what
have
it
to
is?
accept Derek White for who he is.
Do you know what it is?
What's that?
It's affluenza.
Affluenza?
Do you remember this?
Tell
that
remind
rich
me.
kid from Texas that
Oh, yeah.
that was drunk driving and hit like a car and killed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And got off on it because he was so rich he didn't know any better. And they called that affluenza.
I do remember this
That's
now.
essentially what this
I
is.
blocked
Oh
it in my
my
mind
God.
because I wanted nothing to do with that.
Seething rage.
All right, moving on.
What do we got next?
What the hell is going on at the Nürburgring? Do we have speed limits or not?
No speed limits.
right.
Speed
It's
limits?
a racetrack, God damn it.
That's right.
Shouldn't have speed limits on a racetrack
Yep.
anyway.
So they put in speed limits last
people
year
were getting
because
hurt.
a lot of people were getting hurt.
Well, killed.
Yes, killed.
somebody came over a crest.
Nissan GTR came over a crest, caught air, and basically went over and through a fence and killed a
So
spectator.
yeah, with the aero packages that those cars have, when they're on the ground, they create downforce.
Stuff's good.
When
But
they're
when
in
you
the
get
air-
up in the air and you have a flat tray underneath your
It's
car,
an airplane.
Bad day. Bad day.
And so he made it over a very tall fence and killed a spectator,
Yep.
and I think put a few more in the hospital, and it was very bad. And
Yep, that
and
video is readily available if you want to watch
no
that.
one should want to watch that. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
So they enforced, I think it was like 4 different speed. There's a diagram on here that has the track and then it has speed
In all these
limits.
places where there were speed limits and they were different speeds. And
Yep. So for example, in the Bread Street corner, you could go 90 coming into it, 70
You're not real good with your German pronunciations.
new
What was
Not
it? Say
enough
that one more time.
vowels for you.
breed sheet.
Bread
Bread sheet.
bread
Sheet.
Did you just say bread
Bread.
sheet?
We
You said
should
bread
get
sheet.
Bread
we
sheet.
should get a list of all the Nürburgring corner
not-
names
And make
have
Robbie
Robbie
announce
read
them.
I have all the corners actually. If you want to go that
Don't
route.
read all the corners.
Cara Russell.
Yeah.
No.
Cara,
Did you just say Cara Russo?
I'm reading it out.
That's the most
Just a carousel.
famous corner.
Yeah.
You picked that
Oh,
one just to
yeah.
piss us off.
Well, I totally did that. Anyways, yeah. So they have different speed limits. They go all the way down to like 50.
50.
Yeah,
It was
like-
that low?
KPH or MPH?
50 kph. Are you even moving at 50 kph?
I want to say it's KPH. It's clearly in German.
That's not race car.
That's not race car.
What's a carousel?
Carousel.
Am I pissing you off
I
yet?
hate this guy so much.
You know, I don't even really like racing on the Nürburgring, like when I'm playing my simulator games and stuff like that.
It's a tough track.
because it's so annoying.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I guess what I didn't realize is that this is actually on a toll road. So if
yeah,
there's
Well, it's a toll
it's
road.
A public
Yeah,
toll
I didn't
road.
realize that
You
until
so if you
recently.
go out on YouTube and you search it, there are videos of like fucking passenger buses.
Yeah.
Like diesel pusher Greyhound buses making Nürburgring laps and people out there in motorhomes with boats behind
That's
them.
funny.
and just
Why not?
Because, I'm in Germany. Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, let's do it.
$25 to make a lap. Why not?
Yeah,
You know,
in a van, you're going to be out there for like an hour, so it's
Yeah, it's money well spent.
it's cheap
He's-
entertainment for the whole family.
technically, he's doing it right because he's getting
Much more racing for
much
his
more
dollar.
racing for his dollar.
Yeah, so obviously when they put the speed limits in, everyone's pissed off because if you put speed limits on a race, and the weird thing was, they're speed limits, but they really don't enforce them because it's not a yellow flag area, you can still pass. So you're still going to be racing. You might be going slower than you would have normally been, but you're still passing. And it's still
And always
racing.
pass on the left.
I think the
That's a
thing that
Nürburgring
we're
rule.
most interested in is now it's de-restricted.
Yep.
Which
no,
means that we can go back to having the Nürburgring time wars that so many people don't care about and I fucking love.
Yep.
Why not?
And then, of course, there's always the risk. But this is like, obviously, it's the most dangerous track in the history of forever. In the 83 years history, there has been 73 deaths. And then different sources, I don't know why it would be different. It should be obvious. This is how many people have died. But they're saying that it's between 2 and 12 people per year. But that doesn't add up to being 83 years. So I don't know.
And if I had enough money, one of those people might very well be me.
Absolutely.
But so this means that Koenigsegg can now go out there and whoop his Zonda R or whatever.
That is not. Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to say it the Koenigsegg Zonda. I was like, that's not a thing.
No. His
His Koenigsegg
harking
Regera.
back to our,
He's
to
pointing
our
at me
dream
like
garage.
I hate the Koenigsegg or something.
He's taking the
Well,
Koenigsegg
I think
Regera.
I took your side on
you
that car.
shit talked the living crap out of me.
I'm
dude.
pretty sure I took
No,
your
you were
side.
all like, "Ooh,
No,
I didn't put any thought. Ooh, Koenigsegg
no,
makes a
no,
fast
no,
car. I'll
no,
just
no,
pick
no.
that one." That is what you
are
fucking
not remembering.
said.
I
No,
said
I
said that Robbie didn't think about it at
No,
all.
you told me I didn't think about it either. You're like, "Oh, Koenigsegg makes a fast car. I'll just pick that one." That's what you told me.
It's not as bad as Robbie.
That's
though.
not true. I picked the McLaren P1 and I decided to go a different direction so we didn't have the same car. I actually was surprised you guys went different directions.
But the Koenigsegg's going to do like a 6-minute flat, and it's going to be the fastest thing in the fucking world.
The fastest time ever was 6 minutes and 11 seconds
It was done by some Formula One car.
in a Porsche 956.
In what year?
83. Or it's an 83 Porsche. Yeah, 83. 1983.
So, but here's the thing, though. They've changed the track slightly.
yes.
Yeah, it's-
So I don't know if that time's valid.
That was on the 12.9 mile track. In 1975, Lauda did it in the 14.2 mile track in 6:58.
Jesus.
But I don't. I honestly don't
Niki
know.
Lauda.
I don't know what the.
Jesus.
I have Rush on my DVR.
Who doesn't?
I love it.
If you don't watch that like once a month, they're doing something wrong.
For sure.
It's like the greatest movie ever made. Probably gonna
Robbie's
wa-
not biased.
I'm probably gonna watch it tonight just because.
I'm going to
Maybe
go home and
tomorrow.
watch Star Wars because it came out on digital download last night.
So who cares?
Ewoks.
Who cares?
No Ewoks.
No Ewoks?
No Ewoks.
Which one's this?
The newest one.
Oh, yeah, no Ewoks.
What the hell's an Ewok?
The teddy bear.
Is that how we're gonna finish this conversation?
is.
Like the podcast is over.
What the hell's an Ewok? God, I hate you, Robbie. I just hate you.
Yeah, like that's. I mean, that's all we got for like. There's no more. But because there's no speed limits, does that mean now manufacturers are going back? That's
the
what that means.
testing thing
Basically,
can happen again. So
okay. I guess
it's been about a year. Is there anything that's come out that's super interesting? The Z06, did it ever make a lap?
No.
nothing I'm aware of.
So the Z06 can make a lap, and it's going to whoop a bunch of people's asses. and
The
it's gonna be
the
super
GTR can
fast.
go back and get the same time it did the last 4 years.
No one
The
cares.
same GTR can go back now and do it again at the same time that it did
It'll
it
be
in last
2
year.
or 3 seconds faster and
it's
still
got
be
20
slower
more
than the
horsepower.
Z06.
Yep.
So whatever.
Calling you out, GTR fanboys.
Yep.
It's the same damn
Go
car.
GTR.
Yeah, it's the same damn car, by the way. Did you look at it? It looks exactly the fucking same as it did in 2009.
Is there anything else that's come out that's interesting?
This week's that's kind of been it.
Well, I mean, like
the new
car-wise.
did the 1-1's never been out there. I
The
don't think.
1-1's never been out
The
there.
Regera probably wouldn't go out there because
probably
it
won't
doesn't
do
make
all
any
that well.
sense. It doesn't really make sense. For it.
So didn't Pagani come out with an R version, the Huayra,
new one,
the
of the
BC, I think it was.
Yeah, probably that.
Which was like kind of a hardcore track version of that car.
They'll probably make something up and claim it's a production car, and then say, "Look, we have the fastest
Look at
production
us.
car."
Ah.
Yeah.
We ran
here's
semi-slicks.
here's an interesting question: how did Alfa Romeo get the Giulia out there to do a lap?
Because I think that was like right at the gnat's ass edge. When I think it was after the crash because they didn't implement it immediately. They were talking about it,
Right.
and I think at first it didn't apply to manufacturers. It only applied to open track days, and then they changed that and said everybody, and then like it didn't matter if you could maintain that maximum speed limit the whole time. You were it was still like a 9.5 minute lap or something like that.
I just figured the Italians lied because they lie about every other type of racing. So
No,
we
No,
did
I think-
we did a 7:53.
I don't know that they didn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But
we
they-
can't prove that
they
the
could
Italians
have.
didn't lie about their lap time.
They very well may.
This is a
have.
huge conspiracy we've just unearthed about Fiat Chrysler lying about Alfa Romeo lap times.
But I want it to be true because it was really quite.
It was
impressive.
a good time. Yeah, it was a very good time.
For that big of a 4-door car. That was a fast lap.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but
I think it was
not
like
slow.
750
Yeah,
or something. I mean, that's
and I think
it's
one of
faster
the
than
last cars
old
to make it
CTS.
was the Aventador SV. They went out there and busted a silly quick lap time, and that was one of the last ones to make it. So hopefully
Fair
this
enough.
means we can have more lap wars.
Yeah,
I like it.
Faster cars.
I know it doesn't really mean anything to
Yeah, but competition.
almost anybody who can buy those cars, but I still think it's fun to.
I want to see a Hellcat lap.
Well, competition's no shit.
10
Competition.
10 and a
minutes
half
and 30
minutes.
seconds later. It was only 360s. He's got no rear tires left.
Yeah, no, competition's good for anything though. Like any type of business. Like if you have, like obviously
Yeah.
Ford versus Ferrari back in the '60s.
Yeah.
If you have,
Oh, I wonder if the GT ever made it
No,
out there.
probably
Definitely didn't.
Maybe they
But
did
it
some
might
testing
now.
out there.
It
And
might
maybe they
now.
could set a real lap.
Yeah, now they can set a real lap. That'll be cool. I bet
think
that'll
that'd
be
be
Interesting
quick.
to see. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting
like
to see
if-
that.
There
difference.
we go. Look at
Ford
that.
takes their GT out there,
Go
puts an
Robbie.
awesome lap time. Advertise it. I would.
Of course, they're probably all sold, but
Who
whatever.
cares?
Boy.
You're saying Ford didn't keep one or two? I'm betting.
No. I'm just saying that it's not going to sell any
Next
cars
year.
for them. That's
Oh,
what
I
I'm
don't.
saying.
I don't care. It's bragging rights.
And if Ford is anything like their ancestors,
It'll
they're all
break
about
down.
bragging rights.
It'll break down.
That too.
Whoa!
It hasn't finished a race yet that
You
I'm
don't
aware
know
of.
that.
Didn't
We don't
finish
follow
Daytona.
that stuff that close enough to know that. I bet one of them finished.
See, look, he gets a little
Just not
butthurt
well.
when you talk bad about the GT. He gets mad.
Well, I understand. I'm on his side. Don't
'Cause
look
I
at me.
really-
I'm not on
Yeah,
your
you
side.
were just agreeing with me. You're like, yeah, no, it gets really bad. What? No, wait.
wait a
You
second.
want to know why I love it? Because it has a bitchin' rear diffuser.
It's true.
It's the only thing I like about it. Well, it's not the only.
I like
thing.
everything about it.
I like a lot of things about it, other than the Angry Birds thing.
That's ruined it.
Thanks for ruining that.
And now that we've ruined the Ford GT, we should wrap up this podcast.
Yeah, it's kind of got long-winded.
Hit us up on our social media. If you want a T-shirt, you better hit us up now because we've probably put the order in. We maybe he'll sneak you in.
Yep.
Catch us at local events. We're going to go to Carl's Cars and Coffee, and then the one at
We're
Bob
going
White
to George White.
or George White.
You guys gonna come down and hang out with me
If we can, if I can make
Like
it up
to.
there.
rather than do the one here in town?
The 240 should be done by then.
Yeah, maybe
I
we
hope to
can
be
come
there.
up in the
Well, I
240.
appreciate the solidarity, guys.
Yeah,
Synergy.
synergy,
Team synergy.
team synergy.
So the guy that didn't come to lunch with us today.
Ooh,
And I'm not gonna go to dinner with you tonight either.
damn it!
I got a family life I gotta live, man.
Jeez.
You should try it sometime. It's
No.
not terrible.
And on that note,
It is truly time to end. Catch us next week. Thanks for listening in.
your kung fu no good here.